Hello and welcome back to another episode of the SportsRunDown Betalong. How are you tonight, Gary?
Yeah, good, Albie. How's it going?
Yeah, good. I like the new background we have, so kudos to you for putting that together for us and our viewers. We got some feedback.
We got some feedback about the white being a bit glaring last week, so took that on board. So hopefully everybody likes it.
Yeah, exactly. I certainly like it, so hopefully we get some positive feedback. For anyone who's new to the show, welcome along. We're going to watch a few games live tonight. We're going to bet on them live. We've got weekend previews. We've got all sorts of articles we're going to run through. So plenty of football betting content coming up for you over the course of the next 2 hours or so. You can see there's an empty box down there for Slats. He'll be joining us very shortly, so it will be the usual trio we have tonight. And our main game tonight, I think, is going to be Cagliari versus Venezia, Gary, based on our chat during the week. There's a few really good games, but this is the one I like the most.
I'm going to be tracking the English game there, so Stoke versus West Brom. But yeah, the main game from the stream's perspective is the Cagliari game.
Yeah, I think that Stoke West Brom game, you're expecting a lot of drama, a lot of action.
Yeah, it's kind of a top of the table clash. Joe, like Stoke are having a really good season. I don't think anybody expected them to have as good a season as they're having so far, or at least the start of the season. West Brom are obviously one of the favorites to win the title, and especially if they go up, they would have been short priced for promotion. So yeah, I think it'll be a good game. I think West Brom will come out on top. They have a lot more firepower, but Stoke are decent at the Bet365, so they feature in our bet. So we'll get to that a little bit more in a few minutes. But yeah, expecting a good game anyway.
Speaking of the bet, we'll do one thing. So Slats will talk us through his pick in a bit of details, but we very much are against aftertime in here. So the Breda Excelsior game in the Dutch second division in the Erzgebirge is on at the minute, and we have over 2.5 in both teams to score. Now you can see the article on the screen. I think that article went live last night or this morning, so we tipped it up in plenty of time, but we don't want to start calling out celebrations here if there's any goals shortly, because that game is actually coming up on half time. So just to get that one out there in the open before we get into anything else. Sorry, Gary, you were about to say something there.
No, I was just about to say on last week's stream, obviously West Brom were playing. They weren't in our bet, but they were playing QPR, and it was quite an entertaining game. So if this game is half as entertaining as last week, kind of in for a treat,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Is it? I have to. We keep talking about this mystical stats corner, and one day we'll get around to it. But I always feel Friday night games have more action than other slots in the weekend. Maybe this is the late Saturday game as well. But I don't know. Is that shows like rose tinted glasses? But I certainly feel like they're always action packed.
Yeah, like a game under the lights. Obviously we've both been to a fair share of Premier League games that are, a 3 p.m. kickoff on a Saturday, or even worse, you get a 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday.
On a Sunday.
Or a Sunday, yeah. And they just, nobody in the crowd is energized. The players aren't that energized. At night, under lights, a bit of cold weather, I don't think you can beat it. So looking forward to it now. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season, actually getting to games and seeing teams in the flesh.
Yeah, there was one season, I forget what year it was. It was Arsenal were they were kind of on. They were top of the league in January anyway, so that's what it was. And they were playing Everton. I don't know, was it like the first game back after the January FA Cup break? Late Saturday game, so whatever it would have been, 6:00 in London. It was already dark, and Arsenal went 1-0 ahead, and that would have put them top of the league. And then that Deo Lefeu fella scored an equaliser for Everton. Arsenal kind of fell away. They drew 1-1, and then kind of just derailed the season, really. But the next match I went to then was a Sunday, the early Sunday kickoff against West Brom about a month later. And the difference in atmosphere between the late Saturday game and the early Sunday game was chalk and cheese. It was ridiculous, the difference in the crowd. So, yeah, certainly had my fair share of those swings. The next game that we're going to be looking at in the bet along tonight, I'll just run through it myself, is actually in Belgium. So it's KV Mechelen against Standard Liège. There's a guy, you can see his picture there in the preview article, Nicholas Storm. He's an appropriately named guy. He's been around. Anyone who's not familiar with sort of Belgium club football probably won't know this guy. He's been around for a long time, but never really did much. 2 or 3 years as a kind of, fourth or fifth choice striker at a club, and he'd move on, kind of bouncing between the first and second division. But last year and this year, he's hit some run of form in terms of scoring goals. Scored, I think, 8 goals in 6 consecutive games at Stay Lane last season, then got hurt. Didn't play again. Then he came back this season, was a bit kind of patchy the first 2 or 3 games, and then he's gone on another 5 games, 6 goals, I think, is this time around. And he's just in lethal form. He's 7-4 to score any time. He's about, I think I saw one place he was 15-1 to score twice. So I've backed him. He's in the ACA. He's my main bet of the night. I think he's a really good price to score.
And just to avoid any after time in there as well. So I did obviously our ACA, but the bookmaker I use, I don't have the over 2.5 on both teams to score market. So I was forced to go with, not forced to, but for the juice, like Slats gave a good mention to Excelsior there. I think they're heading the table and things like that. So I think I got 7-2 for Excelsior to win and both teams to score.
Oh, wow.
So that's in the ACA, and it boosted it from, I think our ACA is 10-1. I think that boosted it to about 25-1. So it'd be nice if that lands, and if it does, as I said, just to get into after time. Although need 3 goals in the second half now, by the looks of things, so it's a little bit of a long shot. And then just my other bet while I'm talking about them. So given that there's an early kickoff, I didn't want to get into kind of the second half and my bet being dead. So I did a treble. I know we'll get on to talking about Dermot and his good form recently, but he's tipped up a league unbet tonight. So I've put your mate Storm, my pick West Brom, and Dermot's pick Lons into a treble. So I think it's about 9 or 10-1 treble. So they're the 2 bets I'll be cheering on tonight.
Yeah, I like the sound of that treble. I might actually jump on it myself in a minute if it's still available. So yeah, that's the bet there. And maybe actually, Gary, while we're talking, if you want to give us a little kind of detail on that West Brom pick. I mean, you're hot on them tonight.
Yeah, I just think that the top 3 teams in the championship are kind of a cut above the rest. If you look at the quality of players they have, especially the ability to score goals. So Bournemouth, Fulham, and West Brom, they have an unbelievable kind of strike force. All 3 teams have, and particularly West Brom. They've got the likes of Callum Robinson and Jordan Hugill, who are good players in the championship or at championship level. But they've also got them kind of young players like Brady Diangana, who are skillful and probably are a Premier League level. So
for sure.
Like Stoke are a decent side and they've started well. They're decent at home. So it's not a sure thing. But I just think that if West Brom get going early, if they get an early goal, that 1 goal could turn into 3, 4, 5. They showed that in midweek. I think they won 4-0 in midweek fairly comfortably. That was on the road against Cardiff, I think it was. So, it's more, like I said, it's the firepower that sticks out, and the fact that they were even money. I think I mentioned it in the article as well. The over 1.5 brings it up to 15-8. I think that's a great bet as well. So West Brom to win and over 1.5 was 15-8 when I checked it last night. So I think that's a great bet.
Yeah, I really like that one too. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to jump on that treble that you mentioned as well if it's still available in about 5 minutes when the stream settles down. It is very close to kick off. Do you want me to back it
for you here? Because the West Brom game is just about to kick off.
If you can do that, that'd be great, actually. The Cagliari match is actually close as well. Now the guys are just walking out the tunnel here, so should kick off pretty soon. We asked our Italian expert Enzo about it, and he wasn't raving about the match. So, but hopefully there's a bit of action here. For anyone who's new to the show, we have a website, SportsRunDown.com. We share, pretty much daily. We have tips up there. Weekly, certainly we have regular series of Serie A, La Liga, Ligue 1. Gary has the EFL. We have NFL, college football, racing, a huge amount of sports betting content. We share it all for free. Hopefully you enjoy the website. We think it's a pleasurable read. Plenty of good tips in there. Gary mentioned Dermo, our League One expert, has been on unbelievable form this season. So he's up about 25 points so far to a £1 stake. So very, very impressive. But we've got plenty of other good content. And anyone who's on the stream last week would know we had a 15-1 winner in in our live action ACCA, the one that we've just called out here, which is the Excelsior NAC Breda over 2.5 from both teams to score, Nicholas Storm to score, and West Brom in the EFL. So that's the bet tonight. We're actually on a good run with the Friday night ACCAs, Gary. We had a 40-1 winner and then a 15-1 winner, and now we've got a 10-1 treble up here. So very profitable.
Like, Joe, the last 2 weeks are unbelievably profitable. I know I didn't get on the 40-1 shot, which I was fairly sick about. But last week, we had obviously the 15-1 shot that we tipped up pre-game, but there was also in-play shouts like the likes of Coventry, that was 0-0 at half time. We tipped them up based on just the knowledge of how Coventry were playing at home and the stats in the game. They went on to win 3-0. Overall, as you said on our website, we're doing very well. So the racing is up just over 18 points since April. That's the horse racing. The football, as you said, a number of them are in profit. Dermo's leading the way at I think it's 24.70 if you backed everything to a £1 stake. And then our NFL obviously is only a couple of weeks into the season, and it's up 3.5 points already as well. So none of the categories are negative, which is great. Let's hope we can add to the profit going forward.
Yeah, I mean, even obviously the 25s are great and the 40-1 winners, the ACCA winners, but just to not be negative on any kind of free tipping service like that, I think is really, really impressive. We've talked about it on the stream, we've talked about it off the air. There's a lot of kind of, we call them big name tipsters out there, and if you really look at the P&Ls, they're not all that impressive, and a lot of them are actually not even in profit at all. So, pat ourselves in the back there. I think it's going very well. Couple of minutes in here in the Serie A, not a huge amount happening. Pretty equal so far, but no real threats. So we'll keep an eye on this one for you. West Brom should be up and running as well there, Gary.
Yeah, it's just kicked off. So minute and 10 on my clock, still kind of settling down. So nothing to really report at the minute, but I think it should be a good game. Yeah.
While they've just kicked off, we will actually run through some of the tipping articles that we mentioned on the site. So we do have a fair kind of league experts in each different field. So one of the ones that we have is in the La Liga. So we have Savage. He's our La Liga Spanish football expert on the site. He has an article up this week. An article up every game week. He likes some very kind of juicily priced ones this weekend. I'm actually definitely going to back him. The first one up is Atletico Barcelona. So it's really hard to call that one. I mean, I have no real insight into it. Atletico had a very, very nice win. I'm not sure if you saw the late winner, Gary, in Milan, and then obviously Barcelona got absolutely decimated by Benfica, which actually we tipped up ourselves in the Champions League article. But he's gone for a draw there. I think those big games actually, the draw always seems like a good call in those big games. It's 5-2, so I like the price in that one.
And especially because I'd say historically, if you looked at Atletico's results, they're always the odd goal if there is a winner, that way they never lose by loads, they never win by loads. So I think that looks like a decent bet.
And that was something that Savage pointed out in his article. He says that, I don't want to give the whole article away, so by all means head over to sportsrundown.com and have a read for yourself, but he just points out that Atletico have really struggled in front of goal this season. And like you said, Gary, they're kind of infamously a difficult team, so I think if they know they're going to struggle to score, I think the focus will change to don't concede, and I don't think anyone would be surprised if this was a dour 0-0. So the 5-2 for the draw there looks good. The next game he's picked is Granada-Sevilla, which is not such a big name, but he's gone with Sevilla to win there. Sorry, Sevilla to win and both teams to score. So he went against Sevilla last week, if I recall, against Valencia. It didn't really work out, but Sevilla this week and both teams to score is 7-4. It seems like a good price. I mean, Sevilla are banging in goals, so I don't think them scoring is going to be an issue, and I think he makes a good case for Granada to also get on the score sheet there. So that's 7-4. And the last big one he has is the Getafe Real Sociedad. Great win there. Sociedad at 6-5. So, he's on a good run in the La Liga. So make sure to check those out. I mean, my own personal La Liga betting has been dismal for about 10 years now. So I'll just follow somebody else's lead on that. I don't even try to make my own calls on the Spanish football anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I find the Spanish football, out of all of the leagues, like, you'd obviously have a passing interest in it, but I find it the hardest to call from a betting perspective. So it's good to have
Yeah.
Savage there with, a quick article you can read and feel like you're getting a lot of like quality content back, and quality insights and his recommendations on the bets. So I think he's been a bit unlucky recently, with his bets. They've come kind of
Yeah.
close, but I think the analysis has been good. And even if you don't follow the bets, it's a good rundown of the games. So both the games that happened last week and the games to come in the current weekend. So I find it very beneficial and very helpful.
Yeah, and actually, my bet midweek Benfica to beat Barcelona was kind of, a lot of the information I got from that came from his weekly La Liga series. So yeah, good point there as well. You mentioned earlier, Gary, that the League One profit or the League One articles are in a really high rate of profit at the minute. So maybe you want to talk us through Dermot's League One this weekend.
Yeah, I think you need to go to some French classes as well. LB, we can't be getting the League One and the EFL mixed up with the
Yeah,
League One in France. So yeah, Dermot's covering the French Football League One. And as you said, LB, he's been on unbelievable form recently. So 3 of his last 5 game week trebles have come up. And even in the weeks that he hasn't had the winning trebles, he's had a number of winning singles, been let down by one leg. I haven't got a strike rate. I must do up a strike rate. It was something I meant to do. But I assume it's going to be very high. And I said to a £1 stake, so if you put a £1 bet on all of his bets this season, both the singles and the trebles, you'd be up £24.70. So for a free service that's had a little bit of bad luck along the way, like that's not including, he had Nice Marseille, I think it was, which Nice were winning 1-0 in the 75th minute, and Payet got involved with a fan.
Got involved. That's
well,
a very
he did.
nice
He
way to say it.
He reacted. The game ended up being postponed and then declared basically null and void. So bets were kind of rolled off. So when you add that in, I think Nice were odds against in that game. They could have been 6-4, 7-4, something like that.
Got your audio there, Gary.
So this week he actually has a game that's kicking off in 7 minutes. So it's Lons versus Reims. So Lons are second in the table, Reims are 11th. That in itself is something to look out for. But Dermot kind of points out that even though Reims are in 11th spot, they're actually doing that with a team that is a very kind of low or below par squad. His expectations at the start of the season was they'd struggle to avoid relegation. So he thinks they're kind of playing at the top of their game at the minute, and they're picking up draws, etc. And
just a question,
essentially outclassed them.
Is that the one where Dermo makes the comparison between the La Liga and the Serie A in terms of the odds? I thought that was very insightful.
It is, yeah. So Roma are 4th in Serie A and Empoli are 8th, but Roma are priced up at 4-6. But you can get evens for Lons to beat Reims, and it's 2nd versus 11. So even when you're just looking at it like that, it's good from a comparison perspective. But as I said, you could go around the leagues and you could just look at league tables and back, and you'll end up broke. The fact that Dermot knows the squads as well, I think is that just a little extra bit of information, so seems overpriced. As I said, I put it in the treble. I've actually put that treble on for you, so Slats might be a bit annoyed if he doesn't get on it as well. So Slats, just I know you're going to be joining us. With your bet in Holland kicking off early, I just did a kind of safety bet, and instead of including the Dutch football, I put Lons in instead. So it's Lons, West Brom, and Nicola Storm as a treble. That's about 9-1.
It's probably a good bit higher than that now.
It's still time to go on. It's 0-0 after 8 minutes in West Brom, so they've probably increased in price. But so that's the first leg of Dermot's treble anyway. The second is Montpellier versus Strasbourg. Again, I won't get into the detail on the players, but Dermot kind of highlights that there's been a couple of changes in the forwards on both sides. Hold on a minute. Oh, sorry, Stoke just hit the post. Yeah, so Dermot's saying that basically both teams have got some decent strikers in. He's expecting a high scoring game, so he's tipped up over 2.5. But he actually mentions that it could be more. And then Nice versus Brest is his last leg of the treble. Essentially, just pointing out, Nice are on a good run of form. He tips them up, thinks they'll win 2-0. I always feel a bit kind of dodgy about a win 2-0 bet. But when you look at the juice and the price at 2-1 for a home side to win, I think it's enough to tempt me. So the treble pay is 19-2. I'll definitely be backing that. As I said, given the prices, all you need is for 2 of the 3 to come up, and you'll make a bit of profit. So
yeah, 2 points on all that you made. One was around the strike rate for Dermo, so I'd be very curious because obviously he backs a lot of higher odds. I mean, the vast majority of what he puts up there is outside even, so even to get a remotely near 50-50 strike rate would be impressive there. But the win 2-0, it's there with under goals. It's up there with my least favorite markets of all. It's just so unenjoyable. Maybe
I was going to compare it to that. It's the same thing because you're watching the whole match with dread of that killer goal coming. That's just going to end your bet immediately.
Yeah, and I feel like there's so many games you see. You know what I mean? Like, I know actually Savage in the La Liga article mentioned it last week, where I forget who it was now. Excuse me, but they scored against Madrid. And Madrid had been fairly crap, and then after that, then Madrid just went to town on them and battered them in the last 15 minutes and won the game. So I feel like a goal can just come out of nowhere. I mean, it obviously, like you said, Gary, there's good juice in there, it's good value, and if you're not watching it, maybe it's worthwhile doing. But certainly for entertainment, or if you're going to be watching the game, I hate that market.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a corner here for Venezia in the Serie A. So I mean, that game would really an early Venezia goal would really light that game up. So here's
I'm sorry, just before we move off Dermot's article, can I just point out the headline, "Life Through a Lens"? I thought that was very good. So hopefully the viewers and the readers of the website like it as much as I did.
Whoever appreciates a pun.
Yeah, I was going to say there's quite a wide array of a variety of headlines on the site. We've got some that are very just, week 3 preview, week 4 roundup, and then we've got life through a lens, or are you not entertained? For anyone who hasn't seen Gary's QPR inspired headline for the EFL, so quite the variety. I'd love to know what people think about which ones are the preferred ones. But speaking of the Serie A stats, you had a read through Enzo's Serie A preview. Or I hope you had a read through Enzo's.
He's lined
on the spot now, lads.
Yeah.
Bets for the weekend. So
naughty corner for not doing his homework.
No, I've read it. I published this on our site, so I had a good read of it before that. But it's decent. Yeah, there's 4 games. One of them on Saturday afternoon, and the other 3 are on Sunday. The one thing I mightn't hit here is my pronunciation. I think most of them I should be fine, but Salernitana versus Genoa on Saturday, 2:00. Yeah, I think that
must be one of the hardest names to pronounce.
I was going to say all the places to start. He could have just said, the other team or some nickname for them. But
yeah.
We'll see if Enzo's watching. He'll let us know in the comments, because he's not one to keep his opinion to himself. So he'll let us know if you're on the money there with that.
Try and just say it quickly and just mush all the syllables together and just blurt through it and move on. And I could have just said Genoa, because mainly the backing of the bet is because of Genoa. So Enzo's going for over 2.5 goals. Again, he's been doing this with Genoa recently on a few games, and they've all come out trumps. He did it last week when they played Verona, and it finished 3-3. So I love those ones where even over 2.5 and it just absolutely walks in. And as he pointed out in his article, all of their games have had over 2.5 so far, which makes the odds of 11-10 seem a bit mad, like when they're doing it every game. Why? It's certainly, you would expect more likely to happen than not. 11-10 definitely seems like value there. And then Sunday morning is Bologna v Lazio, and the pick here for Enzo is Lazio to win on the road. He kind of points out that Lazio haven't been on the best of form, but they've kind of turned the corner a bit. They had a good 3-2 victory over Roma last week, and then a good Europa League victory, 2-0 during the week. So he just kind of thinks that that burst of form should be enough, and that Bologna themselves are in a bit of a rut. So, Lazio kind of turning things around a bit, and the confidence should be high enough. Bologna not so much, and Lazio 23-10. Again, just looks like good value there. The next one I love, and Enzo's piece on it is, just shortened to the point. It's Verona v Spezia, and 5 out of 6 of Verona's games have been over 2.5 goals with both teams scoring, and 5 out of 6 of of Spezia's games have been over 2.5 goals with both teams scoring. So 21-20 definitely looks excellent value there. Two teams that are hitting that most games going up against each other, it definitely could be a goal-orama there. And then last up is the Sunday evening game, probably the game of the weekend in Serie A, is Fiorentina hosting Napoli. Napoli top of the table, but they're on the road. Their form is 5 wins out of 5, whereas Fiorentina's 4 wins and 1 loss against Inter. So, they're both playing pretty decent football. Their form of both sides is good. Napoli, the better of the two, but Fiorentina have the home advantage. So, and this for me goes similar to what you were saying, LB, about backing unders, backing the draw. The justification is good. It all makes sense. Fiorentina at home playing against a slightly better team. That kind of balance does make you think a draw is quite likely. 11-4 seems pretty high there. I mean, nearly 3-1. Generally, games like that where a draw feels that likely is closer to 2-1. So 11-4, definitely good odds there. But it's another type of bet that I just don't like backing, because as soon as it kicks off, you just don't want any goals for 90 minutes. You just want it to stay exactly as it is, cheering on defenders for 90 minutes.
But as well, you can never get home early. If you back a team to win and they're 2 or 3-0 up, or you back the over and it goes through. Yeah, but if you just back a draw, there's nothing really. You're just waiting for the whistle. We are having some slight technical difficulties with Gary, so do excuse us if you see him popping in and popping out. He's obviously going to be working on those in the background, but we will have him back to you as soon as we can. So Slats, it's just probably kicking off in the second half in your Dutch game tonight. Would you be tempted to reload on that now at halftime with the extra value, or has that ship sailed?
I know I wouldn't be reloading anyway. I'd be hoping we can still pull it off. Like that injury time goal, hopefully that's going to bring a bit of life into the game. What I'd be worried about is the both teams to score element of that. Like, as I pointed out in the article, Excelsior are top of the table. And, they've been on decent form and they've been scoring in almost every game. Going back into the tail end of last season and the start of this season, they're scoring every game. So it's definitely justified, but they've only had 2 shots, both off target. Breda have been dominating, 8 shots, 6 on target, and just went up 1-0 before half time. I could still see it being over 2.5 goals. I could see Breda kicking on, but they could go on to win 3-0. The risk here, I think, is just that Excelsior might not score. So I definitely wouldn't be reloading, but there's still every chance it'll come in. I'm not even sure. I guess you can still back this in play. I just want to see. Over 2.5 goals now is 5-6, so it's obviously drifted from what it was with over 2.5, both teams to score. When I got on, it was 8-11, so it's obviously less likely than it was at kickoff.
But it is such a second half league as well. I
was just going to say we've spoken about that before, and there can be a load of goals in the second half, even games that go into halftime 0-0, and even games where it looks like there's been very few chances created in the first half can just come to life in the second half. So, if there isn't another goal by 70, 75 minutes, I'd be getting worried. But, once they start going at it, hopefully now Excelsior going down 1-0 just before halftime puts the pressure on them to actually go for the bit. And, hopefully they'll create a few chances themselves. It's still halftime. The others are kicking off. And I don't know, you probably mentioned it, but the other game I had mentioned in that article was that, I was considering going for Alnor City for the 3rd week in a row. Yeah. They've come good the last 2 weeks for both teams to score on over 2.5. I think it was about 4-5 for that in their game against Volendam. And that game, there was an early goal and it's 1-1 at halftime. So any second half goal there, that would have come in. It definitely seems much more likely, but I just didn't want to keep pushing.
That's actually a good segue. So anyone who's in the comments, by all means, we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter live at the moment. So let us know if what you're backing and what you're watching, and what your interest is tonight. But something we talked about offline, you mentioned Almere City there, Slats. I know, Gary, you made a similar point around Forest Green, actually, and I've had it myself with a few different teams. At some point, you kind of have to start looking at yourself. I'm backing the same team every single week here. Now, of course, if you're winning every week, it's a great feeling. But is it a psychological trick, or is there maybe you just get over reliant on the same couple of teams? What are your thoughts on that?
I kind of think it's a bit like if you're at the roulette table and you win on red and then you win on red again. I mean, it's going to land on black at some stage. So, how many times do you press your luck? It's inevitable that it's not going to happen every time. So you keep pushing and pushing on these teams. And I mean, obviously sport is different than roulette, where it's not just numbers. It's not just statistics. Stuff like form comes into it and that too. So you're looking at Almere, they're conceding and scoring every game. Their games are, goal-oramas every week. And at some stage, it's not going to hit. Either they won't score or they'll manage to keep a clean sheet. Yeah. But it's just how many times do you roll that dice before you kind of your luck runs out.
You're saying it roll the dice. I don't know if you're going to have a different point there, Gary. But for me, it's... Oh, you go first, Gary. What were you going to say there when Slash jumped in?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it would have never come into my head if I wasn't sharing the bets that I was placing.
Do we have Gary? Is he...
I can hear Gary okay there.
So yeah, sorry. So yeah, like it would never have come into my head if I wasn't sharing the bets that I was placing. So you obviously get teams, as the leagues, the good teams, and you're looking out for the good teams against the bad teams and where you spot the value. So I think some of it is natural to be looking for those teams that you think are going to win. Now, more often than not, what you should find is that the bookies are ahead of you. So, if you're looking at a league and you're like, I don't know, Man City against a Norwich, like the likelihood of you finding value in that is slim. But in the lower leagues, you seem to be able to get these teams like the Forest Greens. Like Forest Green are playing tomorrow. They're 6-5 away from home. I don't are near 6-5. I think they should be 4-6. And I was going to put them in my article again this week, but again, it was just more... You don't want people thinking, does this guy only know 5 teams throughout the EFL and he's just like putting the same teams up over and over again. So that made me self-conscious. But I think some of it is natural to look to kind of like a comfort blanket of the teams and then if you can find value in there, it's just twice as good,
Yeah, I'd agree with that. While you were talking, by the way, Cagliari have gone 1-0 up against Venezia, so that is... I think they were straight to 4 before the kickoff. But yeah, I'm kind of the same as you in that one, Gary. I think that, obviously there's teams and the better you know them, the more likely you will be to back them, and you might have a bit of insight. And maybe when you move away from the bigger games, I mean, Norwich and Man City, in your example, the Premier League is probably, certainly in terms of football, soccer, there's no league gets more attention than that. But you're looking at Almere City and Forest Green. I mean, there's definitely a chance that you'll find a bit of an angle there. I always think in this context, the first season that we had Sports Rundown and I was doing the Serie A, and both on the website and in my own personal betting, I had like Lazio and both teams to score, I'd say came in like over the course of 3 months around Christmas that year, I'd say it came in like maybe like 12 out of 15 games. It was just insane. And the odds did not change. Like Lazio were rarely favourites, and with both teams to score, you were getting them at 3-4-1 every week. And the bookies just didn't seem interested. So I think in those kind of contexts, you can definitely find a bit of value. But yeah, I get your point that you could be a bit self-conscious if you keep tipping the same 3 teams every week, that people worry that you don't actually know your stuff and you're just like a Forest Green fanboy, as was pointed out in the comments last week.
That's what Dermo did call me out last week in the comments, asking was I buying a Forest Green jersey. So maybe that planted the seed. But yeah, no, I do think, as I said, it is natural to look for those kind of teams. I think the key is realizing when there's no value there and when you're just becoming attached to a team. Like I think I mentioned in some of my columns this season, I know I have an affection for Port Vale, so I wouldn't be a fan, but just down through the years, they're a team that I'd look out for the results for a number of different reasons. So I kind of have to stop myself when I'm putting them in a bet to make sure that I actually am betting from a punter's perspective rather than from somebody who looks out for Port Vale and just wants them to win. So yeah, I think you need to develop that, but it's hard to get that kind of restraint. Sometimes you just end up going with your heart and hoping for the best. Like,
to be honest, that's why I find in like some of the sports that I like the most. I mean, obviously I watch Arsenal every week. The Premier League, like a lot of the teams, like there's very few of the teams that I'm fully neutral on. I either like them or I don't like them, and I'm awful at betting on the Premier League because you're looking at it and you're going, oh God, you know, this crowd again. I don't want them to win, and you just become quite biased. So I think that's why. So
you do have a serious bias now. You definitely do.
But 4 teams I like, and then every other team I don't like. So one team I like, 3 I don't mind, and then 17 that I actively don't like. So
particularly for players, I've never known a guy to just dislike a player and then not forget about it. Like,
get under my skin sometimes. It's ridiculous. Yeah. I get you watch a player you don't like and he like loses control of the ball or he passes it straight out over the sideline. Gives me such a ridiculous amount of joy. It's actually sad. But
just to update, lads, if you had have gone with Volendam Almere, you better be in, which is a little bit sickening because we could be laughing at the minute, but instead I'm hoping for 2 Excelsior goals. But it just shows the downside of what we're talking about, like you kind of, I think you just didn't want to put them in for 3 weeks in a row. Just sounded like a broken record, but it was probably the right thing to do when you know those teams and you know they score and concede loads. If there's juice in the price, just put them in,
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And even Volendam to win and both teams to score looked a good price as well. Like Volendam are favourites there, but with the both teams to score, you were getting decent value there too. So it's not that I was doubting that would come in. I actually thought both would come in, and I said off the 2. I was actually initially I was going to put both of them into our Friday night ACCA, but because LB went with a what was Storm
7-4.
Yeah, so with the treble alone, it was pushing the odds up to 10-1, which I didn't want to go and kind of overdo it and put in 2 bets and only one of them come in, and we'd be sick then. 10-1 is a pretty decent bet for a Friday night, so I thought both of these games.
Just by the way, 20 minutes in that game in Belgium, and Mechelen are 3-0 up, and Storm isn't one of the guys who didn't get any of those goals. So they are all over Standard here, but he hasn't hit the target yet. So
I guess that's still a good thing, though, right? I mean, if they're destroying them, do they kick on, or do they kind of take the foot off the gas?
It's hard to know. Sometimes you're hoping they kick on, but then other times you do wonder that it's kind of what would you say? Like, there's never going to be 10 goals in a match. You know what I mean? So at some point he's just not going to score. So we'll see. Yeah. It's still very early in there. I mean, it was 3-0 after 18 minutes.
The thing is,
my eyes did light up when I went in and saw that it was 3-0. Eagerly trying to stay focused on the camera, but 5-2 scored. So disappointing.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that they had a penalty. They were already ahead by the time the penalty awarded. It was the 3rd goal, and or I believe it was the 3rd goal. And no, sorry, it was the 2nd. You think that maybe you'd give it to the guy who's on such a great run, but they didn't.
But I was going to say that anyway. You'd have to imagine a player who's on a run, who scored in 5 consecutive games. They want to keep that going. So, like, even if maybe other players are kind of taking the foot off the gas a bit, he'll be the one pushing on and striving to keep his own record up now.
92nd minute, just running down the pitch with the ball, like
yeah.
He assisted the 3rd goal as well, so he's obviously getting into the right positions, but no goal yet for Nicholas Storm.
Let's hope they don't take him off and rest him because he's in such good form.
Yeah, that's another thing that always worries you, and you've got a player waiting to score and they've gone 2 or 3-0 up. It's like 70 minutes. You're just waiting for usually it's Vardy or someone like that. He's definitely coming off. Aguero back when he used to play, yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Still not much happening in the Italian match now. It's gone 1-0, but it's gone very quiet since then. So, the other games seem to be pretty quiet as well around the other leagues. Gary, what's the West Brom match looking like?
Yeah, it's like in terms of chances, Stoke have had the best chances. So they hit the post, keeper pulled off a good save, and then West Brom have had one decent chance. It was a volley from Callum Robinson. It's quite end to end, but both teams are kind of just lacking the kind of final pass. And there's been a couple of like chances that have been developed, but then there's been an offside pass that's happened. So West Brom had a 4-on-3, and Robinson played a pass. He should have been played like really like 5 seconds before he played it. He held on to the ball, and then when he played it, it was offside. So I think there's definitely going to be goals in the game by the looks of it here. I had a bit of a fear when I was tipping up West Brom that Stoke could just put all the players behind the ball and it could turn into it like a boring 0-0. I don't think that's going to happen. But I kind of like West Brom to dominate a little bit more for the bet. It's a little bit too open for the bets. Like,
yeah, I think when you're a fan in the stadium, the not playing the pass and holding up and then letting your colleague go offside is probably one of the most frustrating things from a fan's point of view. You just hear the groan go around because, I don't know, when you're sitting obviously 100 feet up in the air, it's such an easy thing to see, you know.
And you expect them to see it every time too. Like, you just expect it from them.
Yeah. The fact that he's getting shouldered off the ball and people kicking at him and he's running at full speed, doesn't come into it at all. You just expect him to perfect Kevin De Bruyne vision of the pitch. But yeah. Cagliari have just they flicked a switch here and they are just pressuring the absolute hell out of Venezia. They're all over them.
Do you have something on Cagliari? Do you have a bet running with them involved? Because they're obviously not part of.
I have a weekend arcade that they're in. They're at 3-4, and it's got about 15 legs in it, so I can't even remember what it is. It definitely won't win. So yeah, small interest in it tonight. It'll get me through to tomorrow if they do, but nothing much. It was very there was no real value in them at 3-4, and so I said I'd leave it off for a standalone bet.
Yeah, fair enough. I was looking there at Shells, Gary. I know you're a Shells man. Do you fancy them? They're odds on to win tonight, but they're still 0-0 after half an hour. So they're dominating.
They win the league, so I would expect that they're looking to put on a bit of a show. There were no price, and I looked at it around. I think they were 2-9, so I left them off. But what price are they now?
They're 8-13 now with half an hour gone, and they've had all the shots so far. They've had 6 shots to 0.
Significant drift.
So it kind of looks like it's coming. It is a big drift, but it'll keep going. You know, if it stays 0-0 till half time, you might be getting close to evens for that.
Yeah, I was going to say that. If you get 4-5 at half time or something like that, then I think that's value.
Do a 42nd minute goal here now to keep that bit.
For Shells are one of the teams that, as I said, I'd be looking with rose-tinted glasses, but they've added a bit of firepower. So earlier on in the season, they were a little bit toothless in front of goal, but they've added a bit of firepower up front, and that's kind of been the reason why they've kicked on in recent weeks. There's a guy, and I can't pronounce his name, but they got him from Forest, from Nottingham Forest, from the
I lost Gary there momentarily, so bear with us if you are watching.
Just in that Dutch game, Excelsior have had a couple more chances. They do, I guess, look to be going for the bit, but it needs to happen sooner rather than later now, heading in towards 60 minutes.
Yeah. 60, you still feel reasonably confident. When you start hitting 70, like the late 70s,
75, if you only need one goal, particularly at 70 minutes, you're kind of fine. Like, if you still need 2 goals after 75, you're kind of feeling a bit in trouble.
Yeah. Definitely. Gary, you're back with the zero. Anyway. Shells have added a bit of firepower, so you're a lot more confident. I think at 2-9 now, they'd be kind of your price. I'm surprised you weren't all over it.
Yeah. No, as I said, I think they'll win, but the most important thing is, getting the victory and promotion.
Do you know? Well, obviously you know on this call, Gary, but anyone who's not watching won't know that I've got a bit of a soft spot for Shells because when I moved to Dublin first. They were the team that I would have gone to a few times, and myself and Gary had a few adventurous road trips with Shells over the course of that season. But the really good thing about Shells not being in the Premier Division is not have to listen to you say Ireland's number one about 10 times a week. So
they're still Ireland's number one. Just because we're in the first division doesn't mean we're not Ireland's number one, man.
Yeah, Ireland's number one and in brackets, but not in the first division, or in the first division. So yeah,
we'll always be
Ireland's best of the rest. That's what we'll call it.
I'm convinced they're going to take the lead before half time here. They've been getting shot after shot in the last few minutes. They're nearly 3-1 to be winning at half time. Very tempted to get on it.
I'm convinced. I'm on it. I'm going to get on it.
I'm going for it. There's still like over 10 minutes left, and they've just been dominating.
So for anyone who's not watching that, Shells to be winning the match at halftime. So we'll make that an official sports rundown in play bet. Anyone who's with us last season will know that we loved a goal before halftime. So
Shells, otherwise known as Ireland's number one, to be winning the halftime set. Right, come on.
You're only looking at the lower table. Yeah, then they are the number one team in that division.
Pretty good side down that level.
Yeah. Of teams that can't stay in the Premier Division, Shells are definitely the number one of those. Yeah. No, I do actually quite like Shells, so I do. I'm glad to have them back up.
They're a little over 3-1. They're actually 3.5-1 on the Betfair exchange. 4.6. So I'm gonna.
You'd be happy to know that I won't be backing it, so it's probably a winner.
You just don't want to jinx them, is it, or you've lost faith in them?
No, I don't want to jinx them. I have enough invested. My heart is invested. I don't need cash.
I'm sure you have a ton of cash invested that you're just not talking about.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is.
How to be called it out. Yeah, I'm on it anyway.
I've decided to follow you to the exchange, lads. So probably going to miss it now. That's generally how it works for me.
I mean, you'll nearly be getting it at 4-1 if you do get on. It's 4.7 to back and 5.4 to lay. There's not huge liquidity on the second tier of Irish football, so you could chance it at 4-1.
Apologies for those loud noises that my computer is making.
But yeah, it's actually 3D on the attack now, so you're safe enough, unless there's a quick counter before you manage to get matched.
Yeah, there's a big furore about the game because of a ticketing. Like Shells put the tickets on general sale, but the treaty fans didn't know about it, so no treaty fans got tickets. So there was a lot of back.
They put it on general sale before they gave the away allocation, or what happened?
Yeah, like I think it was just they were mixing the fans together. You know, with COVID and stuff, I don't think there was enough room to segregate the fans. Or else if you were segregating, you would only have to put 20 fans or something like that. So using the whole ground, they were able to get more in. Something to that effect. I don't know the full ins and outs of it, but
right.
I know Treaty weren't happy, and there was a lot of back and forth. So an extra bit of spice to the game, I'm sure, but I still think Shells will win.
Do you think players buy into all that stuff? You know, a bit of a ticket and furore before the game. Do you think?
I mean, I'm sure the manager would use it to try and G them up. How much of an impact it has, I don't know. And Treaty are a relatively new club as well, so I don't know whether that would carry as much as if it was have kind of a longer history and rivalry with Shells. If that happened, it'd be a bit more of a I don't know, a carrot or whatever for the team. But I suppose any angle you can give players to get them motivated is going to be used.
Yeah. I'm on that now as well. Stats, so I got on it just outside 4-1. Shells to be in at half time, so very happy with that. The cash out is swinging wildly up and down here as the liquidity comes and goes.
But I presume it's not going into the green for you, is it? It's just
no,
between 0 and 50% of your stake.
Yeah.
I'd say even if they scored, it's not going to be one that we'll be able to really cash out on with that liquidity.
No.
But it doesn't look like Treaty are going to score anyway. So I think if Shells do work 1-0, should be, touch wood, safe enough.
Yeah, very quiet here in the Belgian match. So let's see what happens. I'd really like it if Standard could pull one back before half time and kind of reignite the game. But we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, it's still 1-0 between Breed and Excelsior, and there hasn't really been any action the last 5 minutes or so. So that one is definitely getting a little worrying now. Definitely could do with a goal in the next 5 or 10 minutes.
Hairy, yeah.
Things have taken a turn for the worse, lads. Stoke have just gone 1-0 up. The most hilariously bad own goals you'll see. So, like, the ball came in, defender was under. Was he under any pressure? Let me see here. Didn't look to be under any pressure. No, he's like on his own at the edge of the 18-yard box, goes to head it back to the keeper and heads it by him into the bottom corner. So very, very stupid goal. Keeper got his fingertips to it, but couldn't keep it out. So, yeah.
Nah, that stuff is just
it's
so demoralising.
Yeah, it went back to 0-0 on Bet365. I don't know if you were watching that.
Oh, it's been disallowed.
How can they disallow an own goal?
I haven't got the sound on, so I don't exactly know why.
I don't think I've ever seen an own goal disallowed before.
Unless it was like offside because there was a player running towards him that forced him to head it back to the keeper. Let me say it again here.
I'm intrigued as to why an own goal would be.
Must have been a foul in the build-up.
Foul, yeah. So basically, Callum Robinson was coming back to challenge the player who played the ball through. And as the player was going to play the ball through, he kicked Robinson in the back of the calf and then followed through and caught the ball. So the ref gave a free out.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, lucky there.
Wanted.
Yeah. So it would have been like it was a terrible own goal. So blush is spared for West Brom. I'll see it here again and see. It's a very, very, very soft foul. So definitely got away with one here, but I'll take it if West Brom can end up winning.
Yeah. Anyone who's back Stoke half time now will be absolutely sickened about that.
Yeah, if you're on your side of that bet, if you back Stoke, you would be absolutely livid because
hit the post.
He catches he kind of brushes him with his studs. It's not even a full proper contact. And he's genuinely going for the ball. He kicks the ball. I don't know whether it was a foul or not, but
it's funny though, Gary, because when you see contact in the box, you just think it's a penalty all the time. So
I knew you were going to say that.
I'm actually thinking though, we've talked about bringing in a few segments, kind of like hot topics or things to debate on the show, not just the live action, and that's definitely one that I've always liked. To know what people's
you just like
it
because people get aggro. You especially.
Shelburne just scored up 1-0, 41 minutes.
Lovely.
Brilliant. I knew that was coming. I knew it was just a matter of time.
Get them in Ireland's number one now, no?
Yeah, Ireland's number 1-0 against Treaty. That's what they are. That was such a sweet win. That was the easiest 4-1 winner.
It was disallowed.
Oh God. Slats Excelsior have leveled up.
Yeah,
so
I saw that. I was going to say it, but I was too caught up with the Shelburne goals. So,
God,
raging over that now, and yeah, there's only 3 minutes left in the half now. But yeah, that's why Excelsior scoring.
I was fucking delighted, like.
Yeah. Any more goal in the Breed Excelsior game, and we're good there. I know your bet, Gary. You need Excelsior to win, right? Because you weren't able to get it on Bet365.
I think the favourite, having been 1-0 down and coming back to 1-1, I would definitely be.
I think there's a penalty in Lons versus Reims as well.
Going which way?
It's gone suspended. They're showing a replay of it here now. It's gone to VAR.
And that's for Lons, is it?
I think so. I flicked into it because I saw when suspended, so I'm not 100% sure. But I think it is. Yeah, it looks to be a Lons Alon's penalty, but I don't know whether it's confirmed yet or not. I think it still might be in a VAR.
We'll give it a minute anyway, see what comes back there. Our boy Nicholas Storm is getting plenty of action in this Mechelen Standard match, and he's just the last 2 shots for Mechelen have come from him, but they've both been off target. I think one was definitely off target. I didn't see where the other one landed, but I don't think it was saved. So at least he's still active. It's just about to go half time there as well. So let's see what happens. What's the time in the Shells match, lads? That bet looks as good as gone, is it?
Well, not quite, given how many attacks they're getting. It's 43 minutes, so there's 2 minutes plus whatever gets added on. I'd expect they'll get another chance, maybe 2 before halftime. So still possible, but yeah, I mean, when you get a goal like that in the 41st minute disallowed, you kind of feel like your chance has gone all right.
You've had your shot, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So we'll see. I do think they'll get another chance because they seem to be getting a chance every 2 or 3 minutes anyway. So, you know, they might get another one before halftime now. Hopefully they can do the business.
Yeah, and just on the Lons game, it wasn't a penalty, so there was 2 potential fouls, one outside the box and one inside the box. So they've given the one outside the box and not the one inside the box. So it's a free kick about kind of 35 yards out.
Seems like a funny call, really. If you're going to let the first one go, whatever, like a little advantage you give the guy, surely he gets the second one. But maybe I'm just biased because we got loans backed. Venezia had a really good breakaway. They got into the box, and then he just I didn't see which one of their forwards the ball. He miscontrolled it, and they lost it. But it was actually very good defending there by Cagliari. So it looks like it's going to be 1-0 there half time. You mentioned shots a minute ago, or one of us did, maybe I did even, but we had a few good shots on target bets in Champions League during the week as well. That was one that we were very good on last season. So, we've talked about picking the same team every week, but sometimes I feel like that as well. When you're picking the same market every week, are you kind of getting too reliant on the same thing? But for me, definitely in the Champions League, the team that's not expected to win, they look very overpriced in the shots market. I think there's some very good betting angles there. I'm not sure if either of the two of you were involved in any of them this week or even other weeks.
I didn't get on your winners this week, but you'd was it for Villarreal, the midfield, or I think you had to get two plus shots on target, and you had them inside half an hour, I think, didn't he? Like, it was a great shout, and the justification that you had for it, that United seem to be prone to shots from players coming in from deep.
I don't actually have the stats to hand, but I looked it up, and I'm sure it's even more extreme now after the Villarreal game, but they had in their 4 matches, so from their first Champions League game and then the 2 league matches between it, and then the other game against West Ham in the Cup, I think they'd allowed like 45 shots on goal, and 30 odd of them had come from midfielders or defenders. They just very, very high. And I actually remember they were like that a bit last season too, so some good angles there. And then we had the Bruges midfielder as well against Leipzig. I mean, Leipzig were expected to win that match. We said they wouldn't, and they didn't. But like the Bruges forwards and wingers were so highly priced for shots, it was silly business. But anyway, it's halftime in Shell, so
just scored there. So that game's gone 2-1. It's come in both teams to score and over 2.5, which is good. One leg in anyway.
Very nice.
Yeah. I need to change my bookmaker so I can start getting on that bet.
Yeah, it is frustrating. Betfair have those same game multi markets where you can combine different markets within a game. So you could back over 2.5 goals, and you could back both teams to score, and they'll combine those odds. It's obviously not a straight accumulator because if there's over 2.5 goals, there's a much more likelihood that it's going to have both teams scoring, but you'll get the combined market. But for some reason, Betfair don't allow you to then accumulate that with other matches. You can only do the same game multi on that individual game. You can
yeah. That's actually really annoying that you can't combine those.
Yeah, I wonder if they've kind of plans to change it, if it's just sort of tech development needed to to get it going on their side, or is there a reason is there a reason that they'll actually never do it? But it is frustrating, and it definitely would push you towards a Bet365 account that's more flexible with combining same game markets with accumulated markets across games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that there's a few. I mean, obviously Bet365, quite a different style than Betfair, but the over 2.5 and both teams to score combined market, the fact that you can combine bet builders, and then the early payout for teams that go 2-0 up, I think those three things together are very, very useful for, especially when you're doing ACCAs and stuff like that. They're great to have in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I tend to go with Betfair for the exchange just because you do get that extra bit of value on your singles bets. But when it comes to accumulators, I don't think Betfair are the way to go. Obviously, you can only accumulate under Sportsbook, not on the exchange. So probably best to have a couple of accounts.
Yeah, well, it's halftime now in Belgium. It's halftime in the Serie A. I presume it's halftime in the West Brom match, Gary. It's halftime in Shell. So, and what we've done the last couple of weeks is at this stage of the show, we kind of look around and see if there's any in-play bets that stand out to us or any kind of angles you're going to back in the second half. So maybe you first, Gary. Is there anything that you're looking at in the second half? Anything you've got your eye on?
Yeah, so I'm looking at a double. So I'm going to be, well, actually, might even make it a treble and just be fully invested in our kind of pre-game tips. So Lons are 5-4, West Brom are 21-10, and in Ireland, Bray Wanderers are about 5-2. They're actually just gone out to 27-10 against Cork City. So that's just kicked off in the second half. So that's a 24, nearly 25-1 treble. So I'm going to hop on that now before there's a goal in the Bray Wanderers versus Cork game. It kind of leaves me totally isolated or totally dependent on West Brom and Lons. From what I've seen of Lons, they've been on top. West Brom need to up their game in the second half, but I don't think West Brom can play any worse than they've played in the first half. So if they can up their game, they should still be able to win.
What's the thinking on Bray? I haven't seen any of that one now myself.
So Bray are just a decent side and they goals, but they're technically very good. A draw up against the Cork side, who I don't rate at all, yeah, I can just see them win. It's not based on the stats today because they're actually being dominated if you look at the stats of the game today, but it's more based on seeing the teams throughout the season.
Okay, sounds good. And what about you, Slats? Anything in the in-play markets that catching your eye?
Yeah, well, excuse me. That Shells game we didn't get that goal. We were a bit unlucky, I guess, with that disallowed goal just before halftime. But just given how that game has gone, we were talking about Shells drifting and saying they might move close to even money at halftime, but they were 8-13 after 30 minutes, and they're still 8-13 after 45, which just kind of shows the fact that they upped it and had so many chances in that last 15 minutes. But to back them and over 1.5 goals is 15-8. So that's a big swing in value, and it kind of feels like one of those games. I think they're going to go up 1-0 in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the second half. Now, I could be wrong, but it definitely feels that way. And it feels also like one of those games that once they get that first goal, they could push on and score another few.
Especially as it's the league, the lower league winning a game for them. Do you know that they'll, it'll be kind of like it'll turn into a party if they get an early lead. It'll kind of, I would agree with that. They score early. Exactly. I could see them scoring with plenty. It's a shame that they're, any of the non-main leagues don't get it. But, those markets, we used to do it in the head-to-head, something that happened between 45 and 50. You'd probably get very good odds on an early second half goal for Chelsea.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that market is available. Like you're saying, that only tends to be there for the top tier matches.
Even like Belgium and stuff like that, you don't even get them. So I wouldn't imagine it's in Ireland. Let me have a look here.
And it does seem to happen to us so often when first half goals don't come good for us that they go and score very early in the second half just to make us feel bad. But I still think that's good value when you're not reliant on a goal coming early either. If they go up 1-0 after 60, 70, 75 minutes, there's a very good chance
a goal between the 46th and 55th minute is 9-4 on Betfair.
In the Shells
very,
yeah.
Be fearful that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think you were coming in and out for a second, but yeah, we got a little bit of it. But say that again, guys.
No, I was just gonna say it's a very risky bet, that those time limited ones. I kind of avoid them myself. You'd be frustrated if you do it, let's say 46 to 55, and then it's like 55-01 and there's a goal. Like,
yeah.
Chelsea
scored 2 or more goals.
It's better value for Chelsea to win and over 1.5 goals. I presume that's pretty close to the odds you were about to say there, LB, for Chelsea to score 2 or more goals.
Yeah, they're 9-5 to score 2 or more goals, 15-8 to score for them to score, and there'll be 2.5 or 1.5 in the match. So
they need to score twice for that to happen, and it's unlikely that they won't win if they do score twice. So
yeah, very unlikely.
It's actually kicked off again. I think that didn't feel. Oh no, it's not. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah, sometimes
Betfair highlights. Oh no.
No, it's just Betfair shows it as 52 minutes. It doesn't actually seem to stop the clock. I find this a lot on Betfair these days. They don't stop the clock at half time. It keeps going and going. And on their little pitch, it actually shows throw-in for Treaty United. But when I go on to Bet365, it just says half time. And it makes sense because, it was only about 7 minutes ago that it went to half time. So it'd be a pretty quick turnaround for that.
To be honest, we were actually just speaking about this off air, myself and Gary, before you joined us, lads, that the Betfair functionality has gone downhill so badly the last few years. It used to be so much better than all the other online sites. And now it's harder to find your games. It's harder to find the markets. Even when you go into the different leagues, it's still just Betfair/football. So if there's any little glitch, it just brings you right back out to the start. You've got to go in again.
Yeah.
It's just so
that bothers me.
It's so unuser friendly.
Yeah, you want to check a few games in the same league, and you go into one, and you kick back, and you're just back at the start, having to go into competitions.
Yeah, especially with an obscure league, you're just trawling through.
Yeah, there's probably people in Betfair wondering, why is there someone in Dublin every Friday going into the Erzgebirge and clicking into every single game, and he's just running through the list.
Something else that bothers me, that maybe it shouldn't, but the exchange and sportsbook layouts are different to the extent that, in the exchange, you've a bar going across the top with all your different sports, and the first one is football, and then you go into the sportsbook, and it's much further over. It's more like in the middle of the screen, and they call it soccer. So the exchange has it as football, and the sportsbook has it as soccer. I'm like, what? How is there that disconnect between two different sections of the same website? It just annoys me.
Yeah, I do think that the look and feel of the functionality though is the best that's out there. Paddy Powers is terrible, I think. Sky Bets is probably up there. But I think they've added too much into their statistics, and it slows everything down. So when you're looking at the games now, they don't really update. And even sometimes you can't see the scores that games are on. There's no kind of snapshot view on Betfair anymore. And I think it's because they kind of load too much through it. Whereas if on Sky Bet, you can get very detailed analysis quickly. I find, Sky is decent to look at from a stats perspective, but I like the overall look and feel of Betfair.
Yeah, the look and feel, I do like it, but I just think it's going in the wrong direction. The one thing I do like about the Bet365 interface, and it's quite poor Bet365, but the next 6 hours, next 3 hours, 12 hours, 6 hours, whatever you're going to do, which I know is obviously designed for degenerates like me, but you can just go in and say, right, what can I get between now and your time? So
Lance have a penalty here.
Probably better than the rest. All right.
Just going into half time.
Noticed it was suspended for ages.
Yeah, it's still suspended, but Bet365 have the penalty market up. All the other markets are suspended, but they have Lan first penalty score 2 to 9 missed 3-1.
I have it here. It's just about to be taken. Although they're still waiting on the VAR. So like they have it lined up.
It's still 0-0, but Lawns have gone to 2-15 here, so I think it's been given.
Well,
Yeah,
Bet365 do that. They give you the odds on the team, and it's back up in Bet365. And they
So it's
base it
all-
on the likelihood of the penalty being scored. So, yeah.
Oh, saved. Penalty
scores
save.
from rebound.
Rebound.
Scores from
Sure.
No, he didn't. He scored direct.
Oh, did
I
he?
don't know why penalty save. Yeah, he scored direct. And as part of that penalty, Rons have had a man sent off.
So that's that.
So, yeah, and that's Dermo off to a great start this weekend with his treble. And hopefully, if West Brom and Bray can get the job done, that'll be a 24-1 winner for me. But won't get ahead of myself just yet.
And what's the one you have on for me, Gary? Probably got.
So for
Chelsea.
both of us, we have West Brom, Lons, and Nicholas Storm. So that treble was about 9-1. And then I've got West Brom, Bray Wanderers, and Lons. And that treble at halftime was about 25-1.
Nice.
Yeah, so.
Anyone in the comments? We've got a few people watching this across Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So do let us know in the comments what you're betting. If you got any bets that, live from earlier in the night, or you're putting them on at halftime, or whatever it is you've got, whatever action you've got, do let us know. We'd love to hear what your bets are. We had a few people in the comments last week who racked up a couple of winners. So hopefully we can keep that trend moving as well.
I assume, LP, you wouldn't double down on Storm now. You wouldn't be going back on him.
I'm actually considering it. Yeah, he's 3-1 now to score anytime. He's 7-1 to score next. What we kind of talked about, the whole game has been played in and around the Liège goal, not in the goal, in the box or around the box, in front of their goal. They've already given away a penalty. We said it. They're a mess at the back, Liège. Said it in the Betalong article that you published earlier in the week, Slats. I mean, they just are a shambles at the minute. I wouldn't be surprised if they got another penalty, and I think if they do get a penalty, it'll be given to Storm with them already with the game in the bag. And maybe there's an element of you've seen it. Certainly used to see it with Bayern a bit when it was Ribery or Robin and they were on a hat trick or they were on a good run of consecutive goals, that they were just toying with the other team, setting each other up for tap-ins. So Mechelen have been not quite humiliating Liège, but it's not far off it, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of set this up now to get him his goal. 7-1 next. I kind of think that's a good price, but at 3-1 anytime is still pretty decent.
Yeah, 3-1 anytime is very good. All right. I guess it is just that risk that we mentioned, that they also could sub him off since he's their form player and the game is already wrapped up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to know. I'm already quite involved in him here scoring, so I won't reload, but I wouldn't talk anybody out of it either.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, well, I've reloaded now shells anyway, so I'm just going to stick with that one, I think, for the second half. I'll keep an eye out if there's anything else, but feeling good about it at the moment.
Just shells and over 1.5.
Shells and over 1.5, yeah. Yeah, I think, I do think it's, I mean, if they continue into the second half the way they ended the first half, they're definitely going to, get a couple of goals and the win. It feels like Treaty are just hanging on, clinging in there. And once the first goal goes in, if it goes in early enough and there's time, I definitely think a second will come. It's actually just kicked off here again, so
that market actually vanished.
On Betfair, did it?
Yeah, the one about the goal between the 2 minutes.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, it looks like that Belgian game is just about to kick off here again, although there's a few people out on the pitch for some reason, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. It doesn't look like the coach or anything. It looks like just some fans after wandering onto the pitch.
Yeah. Right.
Strange, because there's the security around him, but they're not just hauling him off. They're kind of having some sort of argument with him.
I'd love to know what that's about.
Yeah, it's strange. And there was two lads just like climbing back up into the crowd. They were kind of like, all right, lads, come on, off you go. They're kind of pushing them off a bit now, but geez, yeah, I've never seen anything like that. They're not hauling him off. They're just kind of like, come on, shoving him along, like pushing him in the back as he walks his way off the pitch. Like,
yeah,
I get the feeling they're just going to walk him back and let him sit back in the stand again.
In the Premier League, he's probably looking at a permanent ban from the stadium.
Lifetime ban, yeah, exactly, yeah. I'd love to know the context of it though, because he wasn't just running around causing mayhem. He seemed to be bothered by something and was having a debate with the security about it. So
that always reminds me of some of the better, you get them in Italy or Croatia and places like this when the ultras kick off. But and they climb down. I've seen a few clips where the ultras climb down into the dugout and start telling the manager what to do. And it's just like you're looking at it going, it's so alien to, yeah.
What would they be thinking? Like that, the message that they have that he needs to hear.
Yeah. He did have 2 shots in the first half, Mr. Storm. So, and the assist as well. So he's actually the second highest rated player in that game so far. So hopefully he isn't called ashore early and he gets that goal. I think it's still looking reasonably good. Like I said, I wish it wasn't 3-0, but still looking pretty okay there.
Yeah. I mean, we are unlucky that he didn't score one of those first 3 goals, but the fact that Dutch game came in, kind of late enough, really our treble is wide open again. Like, I think that Stoke game, I mean, you even said it, Gary, like Stoke were never going to be a pushover. It was always going to be tight. So, it's kind of no surprise that it's 0-0 going into the second half, but you'd still give West Brom every chance of getting a winner there too.
Yeah, I would, but I'm a bit disappointed by West Brom. Like, they were all right in the first half. They started all right, and then they kind of just drifted out of it. I thought they come out with a good go in the second half, and Stoke have just been on top for the first 3 or 4 minutes. Kick at the minute, so it's about 25 yards out. But it's in a good position for a right footer, so hopefully he skies this over and doesn't put it in the top corner. But yeah, the good thing about them is, and I kind of said it in the article, is that they're full of attacking talent, so they can score any minute. As I was talking there, Stoke hit the crossbar with that free kick, so they really need to get their act together.
Yeah, I'm kind of running with that sort of philosophy that Stoke have probably had the better chances and haven't taken them, so often that can kind of come back to haunt you, and in tight games like that you end up losing when you don't take your own chances. So I guess that's what we're hoping for here.
I actually sick I didn't say it earlier on as well, but like Jake Livermore, who's a centre midfielder for West Brom, certainty. He's like the Granit Xhaka of like the championship for getting yellow cards. I meant to say earlier on that he was a model to get a yellow card. I don't know what price he was, but he's just picked one up there for a terrible foul. So, pity we didn't say him. Bit after time in there. Oh, and from the free kick, they tried to lob the keeper from the halfway line and just went wide.
Would have been nice. Yeah, is anyone watching the second half in this Shells game? It's been all the other crowd treaty.
Really? No, I haven't been watching it.
Yeah.
Not
kind of wish I was on my goal between 45 and 56, because I think it could be a treaty goal. But I guess actually wouldn't really matter, because you still need Chelsea to score too, isn't that right? So no matter which way it goes.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And it might kind of waken them up a bit, maybe. That we were talking about the Dutch too, been heavy on second half goals, and that Breda Excelsior game has just finished 4-1 to Breda. So you never would have thought, both teams to score and over 2.5 was in doubt. But given it was only 1-0 right before halftime. It went 1-0. And the
That's
second
you'd be
didn't come till
right.
the 60th.
Like, if you did over 2.5, or you had over 2.5 both teams to score, I'd just be writing off my bet at halftime. Like, you wouldn't expect 5 goals in the second half, both teams to score.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, but it does happen in that league a lot. There's a Maastricht, that game is finishing 6-2. I actually think there was a lot of goals. Yeah, I mean, that was 3-0 at halftime, and then there was 5 goals in the second half. One of the other Dutch 2 games wrapping up. But yeah, it definitely seems to be the case there that's heavy on second half goals.
Yeah. No sign of this Belgium game kicking off yet. I'm kind of
I think it's still. It's just showing replays of the first half now on Betfair, but I still think it's whatever that issue was with the fans on the pitch. There was some other fella in pretty casual wear that was like over talking to the referee on the sideline. I don't know who he was. He was hardly just another fan because the referee was actually, giving him a conversation. But I don't know what was going on there. There was definitely some fans that were out on the pitch anyway.
The Liège fans are raucous, though. I wonder, was it one of their guys? Like, they're unbelievable. I think we showed it before on the site ages ago when one of their stalwarts players, before, moved to Anderlecht, like the big rival, and he came back, and the whole stadium was covered in this banner of him, like a picture of him decapitated and the fans holding his head, and they started throwing stuff at him when he started playing. And after like 6 minutes, the abuse got so bad, he just picked up the ball, booted it off some fan's face in the crowd, and just got sent off, and then the match got cancelled. It was absolutely mental.
No way.
He just, whatever they were saying to him got right under his skin.
Some of these stories you hear from Europe is just mental. Like,
I know. Yeah. It's gas. I want this to happen. I hope it doesn't get freaking called off. Not with freaking Mr. Storm having not scored.
well, it'll just be void. I'd prefer it to be called off on void than for him to be subbed off after like 50 minutes. So
Obviously.
I won't see him getting subbed off, but yeah, I'd be sickened if he did. This game picked up, the Italian game picked up where it left off, or where it started actually, not where it left off. It's all Cagliari. So see what happens there. Kind of glad I actually missed that 50 or 45 to 56. Now it's 53 minutes gone in the Shells game. It's still 0-0, so he's starting to sweat that one otherwise.
Hopefully they'll do what Gary was saying and score just a minute after that runs out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still looks like Treaty have a corner here. They just had a shot and they have a corner now. It definitely looks like they've dragged themselves back into this game a bit. But I'm kind of... Yeah, like Shells didn't move for that last 15 minutes at all, and now after less than 10 minutes of the second half, they've drifted to 4-5, and that's definitely a reflection on how the game has turned a bit. But I'm kind of hopeful that Treaty are just kind of throwing everything at them that they have now, and we'll just get caught on the break and that.
Really, for our bet, a Treaty goal is kind of what we need here, because if Shells score one after 80 minutes, nothing will probably come of it, So.
Yeah,
two
it
goals
definitely
anyway.
wouldn't do any harm if they got one.
Ireland's number 1-0 down. That's what we want.
oh, we don't want that at all.
But we're still saying we want them to win. Just
Doesn't matter.
Comfortable.
Never to go 1-0 down. It's still half time in
they've
this
drifted
game.
out to 4-1 now. Okay, that's actually looking a little tempting.
Yeah, they're getting dominated in the stats, but I think that's just Bray. Bray are, when I've seen them, they're very kind of good, on the ball. So they'll pass it around midfield, they pass it around at the back, but they just haven't got that much attacking threat. Score the perfect goal. I think that's what's been reflected in the stats. So they've only had one shot on target and stuff, but I'm missing something from a sending off perspective or whatever. I wouldn't have them at a 4-1 shot from what I've seen of the league this season. I said I went to see Bray versus Shells a few weeks ago, and Bray were very, very good technically. So I'm hoping they can just pull a goal out of the bag. Especially being at home, it helps.
Would they have been favourites going into this game? Because City are 3-1 now, and Bray are 4-1.
Yeah, I think it was fairly evenly matched at the start. So I think the draw probably was always favourite. Like,
I'm going to throw a tenner here on West Brom, Bray, and Shells, 30-1. The three of them all drawn.
West Brom, Bray, and Shells.
33-1.
Clock's a bit against John Bray, but if they manage to get a winner there,
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm kind of thinking there. If they get it, we'll be laughing. Still nothing in Belgium. No replay. God Almighty.
Are you sure? Has anybody checked like Bet365 or whatever for?
I'm watching it on Bet365.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just still half time.
It's weird, like.
Yeah.
Is it bad weather or?
Well, you'd stepped away, so Slats was telling us there looked like a guy, like a pitch invader, but the stewards didn't just rugby tackle him and haul him off. They were actually just trying to talk him back to his seat. And then there seemed to be a bit of kind of
crowd, two fans that showed that they were just kind of climbing back up into the stand from being out on the pitch, and another fellow that was having an argument with about 8 stewards, and they kind of just started pushing them along off the pitch. But I don't know. The scenes it's showing now are just like the fans in the crowd waving flags and chanting away, waiting for something to happen. But there's nothing going on the pitch anyway.
Just adding to the suspense of our bets and that.
I wonder, can we get anything on Twitter, or if anybody watching knows what's going on?
A few people watching across the three, so we've got Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So if anyone does know specifically what's going on in Mechelen, let us know what your thoughts are, or what your thoughts are, what the updates are. We have a disgruntled customer in the YouTube comments, unhappy with some what looks to be private horse racing tips being shared by Gaz. So. Not sure. Gaz was talking about his cliffs, and he followed Mr. Darren Healy in the comments. Followed you off a cliff and lost 80 quid. So he says a sarcastic cheers, Gaz, for that.
No, that is not my fault. I just said that one of our old favourites was running, but I didn't say to back him. So I'm not taking that. I think you can guess who was running.
Sounds like you guys now, in fairness.
No, definitely wasn't. So take that back. It's the same person who wasn't sharing the 25-1 tips last weekend that won, but I will leave that out of it as well.
Oh yeah, nice to know. 8 days later.
In fact, I've just checked. I gave him the winner there. I told him to back Bunny and there. So I don't know what he's talking about.
You get that winner sent to you, Slats? I don't think I got that.
No, I didn't get that one either. No.
You have to be in the know, lads.
Yeah. There you go. Now, anyone watching it, you need to be in Gary's inner circle if you're going to get the winning tip sent on to you.
Yeah, private group. Speaking of winners, I could do it.
Right, I found something on Twitter, but it's either in Dutch. No, it's in French.
Flemish. You can't even tell.
That's Flemish. I don't have a clue what it's saying, but I'm going to try and translate.
Not English anyway.
I mean, not English. I can tell you that much. Something about a delay for 10 minutes. I should actually be able to work this out. That's definitely French. So, le deuxième, I presume, le deuxième mi-temps, so I presume that's the second half, commencera, so commences avec 10-minute retard. So, like, with a 10-minute delay.
I can't believe the fact
and
that
then it says it
there, and you had to query whether it was French or not. Like, so.
No, I'll tell you what it is. The same tweet has that sentence and then a hyphen, and then it says the same thing again in Dutch. So I just saw like a lot of words that I thought I recognized in French, and then other words that I've never seen before with like Z's in the middle of them. And
we know you're Dutch football watching. We thought you'd be able to speak a bit of that, Slats.
Yeah.
I haven't grasped it yet, but I'll get there someday.
Many pitch invasions in all the Dutch women's football that you watch.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Some guilty chuckle there as well. Yeah. Yeah, this is really weird now. All right, the players are back. Here we go. The ref is about to blow his whistle, so we're about to get back in to
Give
the
it the
second half.
storm.
Yeah,
That's good. I hope he's still on the pitch, is he?
he is. Yeah, just saw his goalless head wandering around.
Goalless head.
Pull the
He's
finger
either
out
going to
now.
be a hero or a villain here. Never go into any bets again, or it'll be at every bet we ever do in the Dutch league, like
Yeah. I don't know if he scores many goals in the Dutch league now, Gary, but
or Belgian league, whatever.
yeah. Players went out and lined
I
up
live
on the
in
wrong.
the UK, man. Brexit, it's all the
That's
same.
all the
to me.
same, yeah.
It's over there.
Yeah, that foreign league is what they're playing in. Players lined up on the wrong side. I've never seen that before. The ref made them swap. Dopes. Right. No, a few substitutions for Liège, but nothing for Mechelen. So hopefully he gets it now.
Both teams came out into the wrong side of the
I guess
pitch.
one team must have gone wrong, and then the other crowd just without thinking went, "Oh, hold on, suspended." Oh no, never mind. A needless suspension there. What are
There's only
Chelsea
one
up to?
thing worse than a needless suspension, and it's a phantom goal. Now, I think
Yeah.
they've kind of cleaned it up. A few years ago, Betfair was desperate for phantom goals. You'd be fucking celebrating. You check back in, you'd be like, how is it back to 0-0? Like,
Oh, it's sickening. So sickening. Bet365 seem to do it a lot these days as well.
I don't understand how you can do that. It's not like it was an offside one that wasn't given. It's just nothing happening. This market is still suspended.
Treaty are starting to look like the bet here at 7-1. I'm kind of regretting my shells in over 1.5. Treaty have been really coming back into it this half. They have a corner here now and another attack on the back of it.
that's what you get for slagging Ireland's number one, lads.
Yeah.
It's getting very late now in the break game, 12 minutes left. Could do it an hour goal.
You up to much, Gary? You watching that one?
Like, they're having a decent bit of possession, but they're not threatening really. Cork have had 14 shots, 5 on target. Bray have had 2 on target. So like Cork are doing all the good work in the attacking third, but I said that's kind of Bray all over. Like, they're just not good at scoring team. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping they can just put one of their moves together. They're kind of like, do you remember Arsenal used to try and score the perfect goal? That's the way Bray kind of played. They're all really young lads who are really good footballers. So they're more in it just to be playing good football than actually winning games.
All right. Not that that's going to help us much now in the next 10 minutes.
No.
Liège are playing much better here, so actually I like that now. This game is going to hopefully just peter out. So even a Liège goal, if it's not going to be Nicola Storm, hopefully it's just a Liège goal and kind of reignites the match.
Anything from West Brom, Gary? That's starting to push a bit late now. 65 minutes gone. It doesn't look as if there's been a whole lot of chances.
No,
in the
like,
second so far.
if I was to have a bet again, I'd actually have a bet off Stoke. Like, West Brom aren't playing well at all. Especially, like, I thought they played bad in the first half, but they played actual dog shit in the second half. So they're lucky not to be at least one down. They keep giving away a lot of stupid fouls as well. So I'm hoping that they've brought Matt Phillips on. I don't know whether you know him or not, but he's basically this like tall, stocky, really fast winger. So they've actually put him up front. So I'm hoping he causes a bit of carnage. He's a decent player on his day. But yeah, I'm really just like, compare this to the West Brom that I saw last Friday, and from the highlights of their midweek game, they look like a relegation candidate, never mind a league winning candidate. Like, oh, and I say that the keeper has just pulled off an absolute worldie. Sam Johnson for West Brom. So Stoke broke down the left, crossed it in. The striker, I'm not too sure who it was I think he made connection on the 6-yard box, and I thought it was in the back of the net, but the keeper somehow got his arm down to it. Like, yeah, your man was like 6-7 yards out, made good contact with it, and then it was like one of those where, it's under the keeper's body. Somehow he
Mhm.
managed to get his arm down to it. So, decent save. But I'm hoping that this is going to be one of those games where they like Stoke really their chances, their missed chances, and they get punished.
Yeah.
So my voice is going here a bit, lads. So it's probably a good
I was
thing.
wondering if that was me or if I was imagining
No,
that.
sorry. I've had a bit of a flu kind of this weekend or this week. So, yeah, all this
Anyone,
talking bullshit is
Gary's lining up a sick day on Monday by the sounds of it now, just getting it out there on the record.
It's like capturing this and sending it on to my boss. Like.
Yeah, really good chance here so Liège have just really come out in the second half, and they've actually I think it's exactly what we want now for this. So Storm is in the box over the bar, but looking lively in the second half in Belgium. Not much looks like to be happening in the. Oh, that sounds promising.
So it's just a scramble in the box. It was a corner, came into the box, ball broke, and Livermore was about maybe 6 yards out, center of the goal, but he was like stretching for it, so he toe poked it and just toe. But if he had got a better connection on it, it was definitely in because the keeper wouldn't have been able to react. But at least West Brom are starting to put a bit of pressure on now, as that they were pretty bad up until now.
That's what we want. Well, it's been said a couple of times on the show, but yeah, you don't take your chances, you usually pay the price. So, really hope that happens in this game. This game is really heating up in Belgium. If it wasn't 3-0, I'd be back in goals. Oh, Jesus, Storm just got booked for an absolutely clanger of a tackle.
That was an awful challenge, yeah. And he's kind of limping himself after it. So,
I think the limp though was just. I think the limp was like, don't more than book. Like he just kicked the guy in the legs. Like that was basically all he did there.
He was nowhere near the ball.
Yeah, if he's not scoring soon, I think he'll be getting hooked. A yellow card, never what you want to see. But this game could easily have more goals in it. Let me check the price in that.
Just while you're doing that, LB, quick update in France. So Lens are 2-0 up. So that's that money landed for Dermo. Oh my God. How have they? Oh, penalty. It's not a penalty, though. That shouldn't be a penalty.
Do they have VAR down there?
No.
Stoke
have been given a penalty. Now, how they didn't.
You sounded like you were celebrating, Gary.
No. I was celebrating because, how Stoke didn't score. The guy had an open goal, and, it was like the keeper was over to his left-hand side. The guy had the whole other side to aim at. And he somehow managed to miss. And then the keeper, look here, keeper palmed it out. It's a bit of a clumsy challenge by him, but I would say he got the ball. Keeper slides and hits the ball with his knee, and the striker goes over his body. Then
you said there's no VAR in the
no VAR in the championship. No, so it's just. Johnson is usually a decent keeper. He's trying to psych him out. He's pointing to his left-hand side. And this guy, I don't know who's up front for Stoke. He's missed a couple of decent chances. So, saved. Great save. Lovely. That striker.
Our record of missed penalties on this stream is just absolutely ludicrous.
Striker has had 2 open goals and a penalty miss. Some little blondie lad. I actually don't know who he is. I usually know most of the players on teams, but I have no idea. It's pretty shit penalty. Decent save, though.
Very good. Keeps us live there.
Yeah, that would have been an absolute sickener.
Liège are 2-1 to score the next goal. Be very tempted by that if I was going to put a bet on in this Belgian game. They're really pushing. I won't do it though. I'm too invested in the Storm, so I'll leave it. But it doesn't look like a bad shout.
Bray had a sustained attack there, but didn't result in a goal. It was a blocked shot. So,
yeah, it looks like Cork have been still kind of dominating there the last while. And
any updates in the Shells game? Yeah,
they haven't had another shot. They haven't had a shot in the second half. I mean, I'd say it's been all Treaty, but Treaty have only had a couple of shots themselves. There just hasn't been a whole lot going on compared to the first half, or certainly compared to the last 15 minutes of the first half. Treaty have definitely been on top this half, but yeah, I could still see Shells pushing on to get a winner. Over 1.5, it's gone beyond 70 minutes now, so over 1.5 goals might be a bit of a struggle. Unless
it's beginning to look
pretty soon.
Begin to look unlikely. Mechelen had a free kick there. I was hoping it would be swung into the boxes from way out the pitch, but they just went for the safe sideways pass, which is a bit annoying. Now they're going to start trying to smother out or suffocate this game here. Not what we want to see.
What was the game that we got hit with that last season? We really needed one more goal, and there was just the team that we needed to score were just killing the game altogether. Can't remember it now, but it's so painful to watch.
Do you remember the one last season, or was it the season before, in the Spanish Segunda, and there was the counter-attack in like the 92nd or 93rd minute?
Oh, I never forgot that.
Deportivo La Coruña, and your man breaks over the halfway line, and the ref just blows it up. No goalkeeper. The goalkeeper come up for a corner. Oh, man.
That was unbelievable. We were celebrating because I know we ended up putting the ball in the net as well, but the ref just blew it up.
Absolute disgrace.
Shells penalty here now.
Come on, the Shells. Ireland's number one, lads. I told you.
So it would hardly
Still getting handed
matches in
a
row.
Needed the refs help to get promoted. How many points ahead are they, Gary?
Wouldn't want to be relying on Nicholas Storm anyway.
Oh, man. Doing a whole amount now other than fouling people.
Might be pleasing to hear for some people, but I think I'm going to lose my voice soon, lads. So don't know how much help I'm going to be for the rest of this show.
Well, let us know if you need to step away, get a lozenge or something, or Corona might loosen up those vocal.
Yeah, I'm trying with the Coronas, but they're not. I think they're making me worse. Anyway, we'll soldier on.
Yeah, this Belgian game is so open, but still looks more like Liège. I think the rest of our games are kind of petering out. Nothing much happening in the Serie A. I think Enzo was right. It is a bit of a crap Friday night match.
Shells scored that penalty anyway, so hopefully they can push on now and get a second, and that 15-8 shot will come in.
Nice one.
They get that. I think that's me even for the night, and then obviously if Storm scores, I'll be up. If he scores next, I'll be a good bit up, and then obviously then there's the Akis, but they're all quite a bit to go on those.
It feels like if West Brom go on to win this, it'll be some undeserved victory. As much as I would take it right now, but
yeah.
We feel like we're getting a long way away from our treble, needing Storm to score and West Brom to win. We'd be doing well for either of those to come in now, I would think.
Yeah, still 60, not even 60 minutes gone.
That's this referee, so what would you do, right, if the keeper was the last man outside of the box and catches the ball?
Free out.
You send off the keeper, yeah?
Yeah, of course. How does he catch the ball outside the box? What's he doing? I'm not sure if guys engrossed in the match or if we've just had a little technical difficulty, but I can't hear any update on that.
He's gone. He dropped.
Yeah. So aghast by the referee's call there that he had to walk away. Are you still watching this Belgian match, lads?
No, I kind of flicked it off. I have it on another screen here in front of me now, but I wasn't watching it there. It's still very open, is it?
Yeah, very open.
Oh yeah, I can see Leisure in behind the defence here, ball across the box. Oh my god,
that would have been ideal if they'd scored that, because but first of all I backed them to score the next goal, but also just to kind of put a bit of pressure on Mechelen.
Yeah, they need something to get a bit of life back into the game. I'm quite surprised they haven't taken Storm off after that yellow card. It felt so likely you know, with the
know what,
game
though?
over,
He's
why
not-
risk him?
Not like the key man though. He's on a great run. You know, so he's kind of.
Yeah.
I'd still probably be taking him off. I mean, 3-0 up and he's scoring regularly, but it's not like you're protecting your prized possession and, you know, wrapping him up in cotton wool and getting ready for the next game. So, like
Fair
you said,
enough,
then there is a bit of a. But you don't want to break the run either. So, I do think with the yellow
Maybe
card,
he's not
he's
the
going to
sort
be
of
the
player.
next.
Maybe he's not the sort of player who's likely to get a second yellow anyway. You know, if it was a kind of defensive midfielder or that sort of thing, you might be more inclined to not risk him getting a second yellow. But I don't know.
Yeah. 1 second now. We're going to reintroduce Gaz after that slight technical hiccup, so give me 1 moment.
This Bray game is well into injury time now. It's 2.5 minutes of injury time. I can't see how many minutes there are to be played, but it doesn't look likely that Bray are going to get a winner there. It's still 0-0 Cork on the attack, and now it's nearly pushing out to 3 minutes of injury time gone. So I'd say that one's going to finish a draw.
That's always the risk, you know, when a team is drifting like a barge late on. You know, you're always hoping for a late winner, but realistically, you can't say it's expected either. And apologies for the noisy background there. There seems to be a little bit of a first responders driving past the window, so give us a moment. Still, you know what I don't like about this Belgian game now is that when Mechelen get the ball, they're not really just racing down the pitch. They're just they're taking the safe pass. Yeah.
Back to the keeper, around the defence.
Yeah. So, unfortunate. I'll be back in Mr. Storm next weekend, that's for sure. Well, provided who they're playing at.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And because obviously, like, his odds aren't going to come in if he does fail to score tonight. You know, you'll still be getting that good value for him next week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you have probably no other live bets at the minute, do you? All the games you're looking at are probably quite late on.
Well, it's about 12 minutes left in this Shells game. They've gone up 1-0 with that penalty, and I backed Shells to win and over 1.5 goals. Backed that at half time. It was 15-8, so I need them to score again, basically. It doesn't really matter whether Treaty score or not. They've had a few chances themselves, but I'll need Shells to get a second goal one way or another for that bet to come in. So
yeah.
I was hoping once they kind of got the first that the second might come quickly, that Treaty might drop their heads a bit. It doesn't look as if it's going that way, but we'll see. It also looks like Stoke have gone up 1-0 against West Brom. It's felt like that goal has been coming since about 10 minutes into the match.
Actually, would you believe I was just loading up over 0.5 in that game and went suspended as I loaded it up. I didn't even get the bet slip. I was going to pick 3 or 4 maybe, see if there was any value there. But
yeah, it did feel like there was a goal coming on that one, whether West Brom were going to kind of snatch one against the run of play or whether Stoke were going to get the one that they'd been pushing for. But yeah, it looks like it's hard to see West Brom coming back from that now with just 10 minutes to go.
No, that's that one is over. I'm not sure if you saw that, Gary, while you stepped away, that Stoke have taken the lead there. So
yeah, no, I'm watching it here. My apologies, my internet went there. But yeah, it was a decent goal. It's kind of coming like Stoke deserved to win this game. I said a few minutes ago, if I was having a bet, I would have backed them kind of in play. But before that, I was kind of saying something just before I got cut off. So, like, about 10 minutes ago, West Brom played a ball over the top and the keeper came out, misjudged it, okay? So it bounced over his head and the striker was through on goal. The keeper dived on the ball and caught it outside the box. And the ref gave a free but didn't send the keeper off, just gave him a yellow card. But it was like, keeper was the last man. If he hadn't caught the ball, Callum Robinson, now it was at an acute angle, so it was like out on the right wing outside the box. It wasn't in the centre. But Robinson still would have had a chance to put the ball in the back of an empty net. if the keeper hadn't got the ball. And then about 3 minutes later, Stoke scored their goal. So, like a strange refereeing decision cost West Brom there. But I said overall in the balance of play, Stoke have been a better team. So it's not like sour grapes or whatever from a betting perspective. But it's just strange that, I can understand.
But I mean, you know that new rule about the double jeopardy, you don't get the red card if you're the last man, unless it's like just an intentional.
That's a penalty and a red card because that's double jeopardy. But like there was single jeopardy there because they got a free kick out on the right wing and the keeper got a yellow card instead of having a shot on an empty goal. Like
that sounds like weak refereeing, really.
Yeah, and I only caught it like kind of in passing, so I hope to see it again. But for me, Robinson would and he's right-footed, so he would have had a shot like curling it from the left wing, so he would have been able to curl it with his right foot into the empty net, and the keeper has caught the ball. So a bit strange.
Yeah, bit annoying here in Belgium. Mechelen had a free kick, not that like a dangerous crossing position, and the guy just drilled it into the box low and hard out for the corner, and the corner was kicked straight into the keeper's hand. So 2 good chances for Storm to get on the end of a cross, and both of them utterly wasted. So we charge on now past 65 minutes. Getting late in the games, but if anyone in the comments has any last minute bets or any live bets, do let us know. We'd love to hear them. We're kind of waiting on a couple here, although in reality the ACK is dead this week. It's still not too bad. We're up considerably on the Friday ACK is for the season, but this week I think we can just move on. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it'll take a lot. I can see West Brom still scoring because Stoke have done that. We've been obviously Ireland fans watching Ireland over the years, and they play great and they score a goal and then they just sit back. Do you know that way?
Yeah.
Stoke have done that. They've been unreal for 80 minutes, get the goal, and now they've just put all of their players like behind the ball. And West Brom are starting to have a few chances. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a late equaliser here from West Brom because, as I said, Stoke have gone from being up the pitch like a high press to now just being 2 banks 4 in their own half. And West Brom still have the likes of Robinson, Diangana and Phillips on the pitch. So, they can score with a sniff of a chance. So
92 there for the draw.
I'm not going to get involved in it because I've lost enough on West Brom tonight, but I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, 92 is a good price there, the way you're describing that match. A 9-2 double in that, and Liège to score the next goal in Belgium. Really are trying.
How has our mate Storm got on? Has he had any chances, or
there was those 2? He was, he's good on a cross. There was 2 very crossable chances. I mean, the corner and the free kick before it, and they just didn't do anything with them. They just
that free kick one, and the free kick especially, it was like just on the side, kind of on the corner of the box, but a bit further down the side of it. Like
you never shoot from there, but a really dangerous crossing position.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you don't get many free kicks right from there, and it's such a dangerous position. Like you just welly that across the front of the goal, and you know what I mean. Like it can come off anyone and end up in the net. And
I haven't seen the reverse angle. I think he tried to put it into the far corner, like low.
Was he actually shooting that? Was he?
I think so. I mean, it was the worst cross I've ever seen if he wasn't shooting.
Yeah,
because it was just dead. I think he tried to toe poke it into the far corner. Free throw here. Yeah, still very open. If it wasn't the fear that he gets subbed off with that stupid yellow card, I'd still be fairly comfortable with 20 minutes to go here. But as it stands, he's probably the first player who's going to get hooked.
Yeah, if he stays on the pitch, there's still a very good chance. You would still expect a goal or 2 laid on.
Yeah, Gary, I know you've got a sore throat, so if you don't have the vocal abilities to tell us, but what was it like in the West Ham first home Europa League game, first home European game in decades?
was actually pretty disappointing, if I'm being totally honest. So, like, I think it was actually weird because before the game there was a really good atmosphere. So I got there probably maybe an hour and 10 before kickoff, and there's a lot of queues. So basically, when you go to West Ham, the stadium's on this kind of island, so you have to queue up to go through security before you queue up to go into the ground, kind of thing. So it's a queue to join a queue. And in that queue and security, like there was some, everybody was singing, and you never really have that, at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. You never, people are just waiting to get searched to go in, but everybody was singing, and it seemed really jovial. And then we go into the ground, and beforehand there was a light display. So they've got these new lights and the things that shoot fire out, the cannons that shoot fire. So that was good. Like it kind of added to the occasion. Then they played bubbles about 6 or 7 minutes before the players come out. So everybody was up into their seat and sang bubbles. And then the players didn't come out. So nobody really knew what to do. And there was actual silence in the ground. I'd say for a good 90 seconds.
Wow.
It was really weird. And then the players come out to the stupid Europa League anthem. Little bit of a decent atmosphere after. I have to say the Rapid Vienna fans were good. They were singing all the way through. But I think the players were kind of flat. The fans were flat. I think what was the bad thing about the atmosphere was that it wasn't season ticket holders that were there in the main. So where I was, I'd know the people around me to talk to, and you'd know the people kind of further to see, that way, because you're seeing them every week. And in my row and the 2 rows behind me, or sorry, row in front of me and row behind me, I only knew 2 people. So everybody else was a non-season ticket holder. So when the songs were trying to be started, when people are just out of rhythm with chants and stuff, and they just never really took off. So, it turned into a fairly dry affair until actually what livened it up was, I don't know what you were watching, but Rapid Vienna had a penalty shout. So the ref gave a penalty and then the VAR overturned it. That livened it up. So at the end, the last 10 minutes were good. But it's probably one of the worst West Ham atmospheres I've experienced. I've experienced a good few bad ones, So it wasn't great. But on the pitch, they got the job done. They weren't.
That's them as good as through now.
Exactly, yeah. Because it just worked out so well for them. So they've got Genk at home next. So you'd expect them to win that game. Dynamo Zagreb beat Genk last night, and obviously West Ham have beaten Zagreb fairly comfortably. So you expect them to beat Genk, and then their next match is away to Genk. So if they beat Genk at home, that's 9 points. I think they're definitely through, but they're probably going to win the group. And then for the last couple of games, Moyes can just rest all his players. But we were saying last night, with the international break next week, and then West Ham play away, a game I'm actually going to be at the NFL, so I can't go to the away game. So it's 2.5 weeks before I get back to see West Ham again. And then I think I've got 4 games in 10 days after that. And it's all decent size. So it's Genk, Tottenham, Villa, and it could be Genk again. So it's 4 games in that kind of 10-day period, which would be fairly decent. But yeah, they're probably.
Are they all home games?
No, Villa away. I think it's Spurs at home, Genk at home, Genk away, and Villa away are the games. So
some test of the squad when you get to those levels. When you get any kind of, West Ham have had a few seasons without getting ahead in the cup, or you've got a cup run or obviously a European run. You get these bottlenecks in the season, so hopefully they come through it. Good.
Yeah.
Nearly a good chance for Mechelen, but awful pass.
Cagliari just conceded there in the 92nd minute. LB.
Nice. Yeah, Venezia finished both halves pretty strongly. My perfectly legitimate stream is only 89 minutes here, so you're a bit ahead of me. But both halves started very strong Cagliari and finished very strong Venezia. So worth keeping an eye on that for any future betting markets as well.
We're getting close to the end of the night, and we haven't walked through the EFL, Aka, so I don't know whether you want me to give a quick walkthrough of that.
By all means, we'll line it up there. Yes, you want to tell us what your thoughts are for the EFL, Gary? If you want to, don't worry if your voice is not keeping up. We'll do what we can.
Yeah. So I'm actually really frustrated with the last 2 weeks of the bets because I think they've been good calls, but draws have cost us, and it's been a bit of a nightmare. So I'm fairly confident of tomorrow's bet. So hopefully it comes up. First leg is QPR against Preston. So if you read my championship preview, you know that I tipped QPR up to finish in the top 6. I think they're kind of, as mentioned earlier on, like the top 3 in the league are kind of at a different level, and then QPR are like the best team in the division outside of those. They're playing against Preston. Preston haven't lost many, but they've drawn a significant amount of games. I think going to Loftus Road, they're going to struggle. And like again, when I looked at the game without the prices, I kind of had QPR being like 4-9 shot, and they're 21-20. So I just had to put them in. I think they've got a good strike.
That's crazy difference.
Yeah, like in my mind, they're a lot better team. They've got better strike force. I said Preston, they've drawn their last 5 in a row, so they're unbeaten in 7. 2 of those were victories, but then they've drawn their last 5 in a row. But they haven't been playing teams of the caliber of QPR. And a lot of those draws have been like kind of low scoring affairs. So I can see QPR winning that 3-1 would be my prediction. I think they'll outscore them comfortably. Then the second bet is Coventry against Fulham. So I'm going with Fulham and over 2.5 goals in this at a pretty juicy price. The over 2.5 piece is probably a bit of a reach. So the even money about Fulham, if you want to be conservative, the even money about Fulham is, a very good bet. But I can see there not being goals in the game. So you've got Alexander Mitrovic, who's the top scorer. He has 10 goals this season. Obviously playing for Fulham. And you've got Victor Gyökeres, I can't pronounce that name, but the Swedish striker who scored last week and got a hat-trick last week he scored 2 goals last week when we were on the show live. So he's obviously playing for Coventry. He has 7 goals this season. Fulham have been shaky enough at the back, but they're good going forward. They bagged a good few during the week. I think Fulham will win, but they'll just outscore Coventry. Coventry are decent at home, but they are shaky on the road. So the fact that they're at home gives them a chance. If this was at Craven Cottage, it would be the biggest certainty of all time. The fact that it's at Torrico Arena kind of tapers that a small bit, but I still can't see Fulham not winning. And if Fulham score early, I think this could turn into like a 5-1 or a 5-2 kind of game. Next is Bolton against Shrewsbury. So Bolton had been going through a bit of a rough patch. Their home form isn't great. Been drawing a lot of games, but I was impressed by the midweek against Charlton. So they ended up beating Charlton 4-1 midweek. They kick on from that. They're playing against Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury, they haven't won away from home in 5 games. I think they've only scored 2 goals. Only scored once in those 5 games away from home. So even though Bolton haven't been great at home, they haven't been losing too many. And I think that, again, I can see Shrewsbury scoring against Bolton. So as long as Bolton can get 1, it should be a country victory. And then the last is Exeter against Walsall. This is fairly similar. So Exeter are 6th in the league. Walsall are 22nd. Exeter, unbelievably good at home. Walsall are terrible away. They've lost the last 2, Walsall. I can't see anything. If Exeter lose tomorrow, I'll be shocked. They're 4-5. It's a ridiculous price. So the accumulator is 19-1. I think it's a great bet. You could probably get about 10-1 if you take the over 2.5 goals out and just put Fulham in instead. But I'm keeping it in there for the juice.
Well, I'll definitely be on that. You've been knocking on the door for sure with the EFL bet, so I'll definitely be jumping on I'll probably do both versions of it now, if I'm honest about myself. I have no plans tomorrow, so
definitely one of those.
And I didn't put it on the article, but I mentioned it to you, LB. Like, tomorrow is one of those weeks where I think I could get a serious bet up. So I'm going to have a go at a monster bet. Like there's teams out there like I mentioned earlier on, Forest Green are 6-5. They shouldn't be 6-5 tomorrow. Luton are around about even money. I don't think they should be even money either. So I think there's a few teams out there. And I might post it on our Twitter. I'll have a look tonight and tomorrow morning, but I'm gonna try and put together a 200 to 1 shot and go for tomorrow, because I just think there's matchups that there seems to be value in a lot of places, and trying to narrow down the 4 picks that I picked this week was actually fairly tough. So
I'm gonna do it anyway. The FOMO of missing a 200 to 1 shot, I think I'd be
yeah, like I sent it to you last night. The one I sent to you, and I was just I hadn't really analyzed it in any great depth. It was just the ones that were on my list, but that was 185 to 1, and I think there's a few more I could add in. So yeah, I'll
put a few more added into 180 to 1. We'd be looking at about 350 or 500 at that stage.
I know, but it's something that you can draw £2 on, like, that way. It's not, you don't have to.
We'll all be getting our Bet365 accounts closed if 6 of us get the exact same 500 to 1 ACO up.
Man, I'm going to be going around Southeast London into all the bookies and putting the same bet on.
Yeah.
€2, £2 in each bookies.
Yeah.
Just all the lads who be in there all day, get them to line the bet up at the same time and slot their £2 together so it doesn't get rejected in the second or third shop.
Yeah. So, but no, I do, and like I'll say this now, and I get like 0 from 10 or whatever the ACA is, but I'm confident of having a few winners tomorrow anyway. So
I get that feeling too. When you're so confident about things, you're like, I'm not even going to say to people how confident I am, because it's definitely going to end up 0 out of 10. I'm like that tomorrow. Like that tomorrow with the college football. There's a couple that I feel like I would honestly put the house on them. So you'd expect now me to go 0 for 7 now tomorrow in that, because it's just way too confident about some of those picks.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the
college football so far.
Yeah, you are. Have a bit of a post about. You never even got to post about your money line bets last week. They were brilliant.
Oh yeah, 2 really good ones. The Notre Dame and North Carolina State, 2 to 1 and 3 to 1. I don't know if either of you saw any of the highlights of the North Carolina State game. Like, that went to overtime and they won it in double overtime. And my God, they absolutely battered them off the field. And I said it in the article this week. Clemson had 2 scoring opportunities. I think they got into the other half 3 times in the whole game. Twice they got inside the 40 and scored twice, and then tied the game, and it went to overtime. They got absolutely hammered. So yeah, pretty good. Happy with that 3 to 1. Actually, I don't want to brag about it because it was one of the mentioned bets on the site, but not up for the P&L. But we had Arkansas to win as well. So I had the 3 of those back: Arkansas, Notre Dame, and North Carolina State, at a pretty huge price between the 3 of them. So very happy with that. A few ones this weekend again. I mean, don't just go against Clemson every week. And that's another example when we were saying you're picking the same bets every week. But they are playing Boston College this weekend. Boston College are 5 to 1. They were 6 to 1 earlier in the week. 15.5 point underdogs. I think they'll win it outright or straight up. They're playing pretty well. Clemson will be the toughest team they've played yet, but Clemson are a disaster. Boston were, I don't want to say robbed, but it was their own fault, but they were so unlucky against Clemson last season. They were winning most of the game. They made 4 absolute clangers in the last quarter and lost it. So big game for them. I think they'll win it. And a few other big money lines I'm fancying this weekend as well. So check out the article. Otherwise, I'll be talking about this for the rest of the night. I could talk about it for hours. But yeah, there's some huge value there this weekend.
Yeah, I'm already on that Boston and Ole Miss double anyway, so I might get in one of the bigger accumulators, but that double looks pretty solid and fully expecting a win there. Yeah,
I'm glad we're getting the cover bets against Alabama every week, because every time they play, I'm just like, this is the week they're going to lose, and then they don't. But at least we're covering ourselves with them because they're not covering the spread. We said it on the site. They were so lucky to beat Florida 2 weeks back. Ole Miss haven't played a game since then. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this, and I feel like they've had 12 months to prepare for this game. I mean, we talked about it before, but this fixture last season is actually in Alabama again. It was like, if you saw it in a movie, you wouldn't believe that a game could play out like that. And I think it's talked about all the time, all over the internet. None of Nick Saban's assistants have ever gone away and come back and beaten him. And Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss I think he's going to be the first one to do it. I think he does it this weekend. They are also 14.5 point underdogs. So the 2 money lines there are, I think it's 30 to 1 double, but the 2 spreads, 2 even money spreads. But very, very safe. And then there's a couple other ones we've put on the site. They're not usually what we go for on the site, but slight favourites, like sort of 3 to 8 point favourites. And I think there's a few of them this weekend that'll absolutely annihilate the teams they're playing, even though they're only slight favourites. So a few very comfortable kind of spread covers there as well. So I got a 25 to 1.
So you went for a 2 units on Auburn +4.
Yeah, so this is a tricky one. I went against LSU last week. That was actually something that I was going to put in the article, but I said it would sound like sour grapes if I did it. But they were +3. Mississippi State were +3.5. I put in +2.5. Now I have the bet slips to prove that they were +3.5, and then they of course they lost by 3. So the bet, we leave it as a loser. But I was a bit stung by that one. But it's this week it's the same again. Now LSU this week they're favourites. I
think there's a few tipsters out there that would have cooked the books and put that in. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, not to go off on a tangent about it, but we've always said that with Sports Rundown. So anyone who's watched the stream or keeps an eye on their website, like we are of the opinion there's a lot of kind of unreliable tipsters out there, all trying to make a quick dollar selling you picks and stuff like that, and we never want to go down that route here. So I mean, I'll take the -1 in the P&L instead of the +1 and not have that accusation that we're cooking the books, because you even said it, Gary, we have the personal bets sometimes go up on the articles, and if we don't include it in the selections, we don't count it, because there's no point in it's a slippery slope once you get onto that.
Like transparency is key, and honesty. Like there's enough shady characters out there, so we want to be as straight as possible. And I said I was doing the P&Ls up during the week, and there was a great, I can't remember what one you had. It was the goal scorer last week. Remember you put a guy in to score anytime at 7-2 or something like that. I think he might have scored 2 in that game.
He scored 2,
for the game.
Brescia,
so but I couldn't put it in because we didn't actually say it was it's a personal bet. It wasn't a tip, so.
And you see with tipsters where they'll start, they cover both sides of it. I think LSU are going to win, but they could still lose, and you just kind of cover all the bases, throw out loads and loads, and then just brag about the winners. We're not interested in that. We do enjoy betting. We want you to enjoy betting. So we'll put up the tips. We'll put up, Dermot has it this weekend in the League One. He's pointed out there's a couple of games where the prices look way over the top. They're not tips because he can't tip them, but he's letting back it yourself. If you win, great, but definitely don't count it as a P&L winner because we can't. So yeah, anyway, didn't get
it. It's already off to a good start anyway with his landing tonight.
Yeah, very, very good. I mean, it's actually ridiculous. So we said it at the start of the season.
Watch out because Dermot will be taking over as the president of France fairly soon.
He was very unlucky the first few weeks with those ACCAs too. So it's not like there's no fluke in this as well. He could easily have 6 or 7 of these weekend ACCAs up so far if he'd had a bit of good luck. And by the way, just a small thing, we did say I don't know, I can't remember if I even backed it now, but Liège would be the next goal scorer in the Mechelen match. They've gone 3-1 there, and obviously Storm has been subbed off. I don't think we said it, but that's the ACCA gone. But we did say Liège would score next. They went out to out 5-2 nearly at one stage to get that goal, so they've got that. But that game is over from our point of view. Sorry, the two unit slats, by the way, I did it on Auburn +4, and I've also done Boston College +14.5. Both of those as 2 units. The Auburn game is just, I mean, we talked about it before. They have a QB, Bo Nix, who's just incredibly unpredictable. I thought he'd be pretty poor this season, and he was unbelievable for the first few games against Penn State in some very, very difficult games. He looked really good, and then they were playing an FCS school last weekend, which is just, they should have absolutely hammered them, and he got taken out in the third quarter. Auburn didn't even have a touchdown at that point. He was having a meltdown. He mightn't even play this game. Now, the replacement, Finley, is pretty good as well. So I think it actually play into Auburn's hands here that they have, LSU don't know who to prepare for. They're very different styles. They don't know what they're going to do. And I think +4 is a lot. Auburn are very good defensively. They've probably got the best run offense in college football at the minute. And then question marks, an unknown quarterback, I think it'll play into their hands. I watched the whole LSU game. I actually watched it in the Circa Sportsbook in Vegas, and LSU got hockeyed by UCLA in the first game. And when they play good teams, they just look poor. So, yeah, I'll take that one. Take that one +4 double unit as well. So,
need to include that one myself in my tails.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when a team is so, like, even in any sport really, when a team is so good defensively, like they're never really going to lose by much. So I just think +4 is just too easy to take there. LSU always get a lot of money, you know, come from a huge state, national champions 2 seasons back. They'll just get the people who go in and see them. Oh, -4, that's an easy one. They'll take them off. And I think that line shouldn't be 4. So that's my theory there. So I think we'll wrap the show up there, and we'll move to the NFL section pretty soon. So anyone who's interested in college football or NFL, by all means, stick around. We won't be going anywhere. We won't end the stream. We'll just wrap up the football part of it, the European football, the soccer Friday night. Not a great night for the All Action ACA. A couple of winners, but not combined. So yeah, that's where we are this week. Make sure to check out SportsRunDown.com if you would have just caught the tail end of Gary's EFL preview there. Some great value. We've got League One, La Liga, Serie A, NFL, and college football. So we've got a huge amount of content and racing as well. So actually, before we move on to the football, Gary, do you want to give us a quick run through the racing picks? Unless I'm putting you on the spot here.
No. So, well, no,
you don't, or no?
No, yes, as in I will, because no, you're not putting me on the spot. I don't know whether my voice is going to last out or not, but I know what I'm going to be saying anyway. So the first tip is the last at Ascot. I'm not too sure. I can't remember the times of them at the minute, but last at Ascot tomorrow is El Astronaute. So this horse, he's dropped a couple of pounds in the handicap, but he's just a consistent performer. I can't believe he's 14-1.
Right.
Basically, last time out, I think he's priced up based on his last run, but his last run was at Chester. And anybody who knows like horse racing and knows Chester, it's a track that's on a very sharp bend. So if you don't get away in the lead around 5 furlongs around Chester, you basically have no chance. So he dwelt at the start, didn't get out, was last most of the way, finished 8 of 10 or something like that in a race that he really should have been challenging in. So I think he's priced on that form rather than his back form. But before that, he ran at York, finished 7th of 22. And horses that, so that doesn't sound too good, but he was beaten probably about 5 lengths overall. And horses that finished ahead of him. So 2 of them have come out and won back-to-back races. So the horse Nomadic Empire, he came out and won 2 races in a week. There's another one, actually Mondamedge wasn't back-to-back, but I think he won 2 of his next 3 races. So he run against horses in form and finished fairly close to him. Like I said, he finished 7th. Mondamedge was probably about a length ahead of him in 4th. So I think that he's priced up on his last run, not on his back form. I think he's a good each way bet. So we haven't got each way or win up on screen, but I think I back him each way anyway there.
Yeah, sounds good.
So then the next is Nebulosa. So this is a horse, again, kind of been running in more difficult races. And I get the sense tomorrow is an easier race. Oisin Murphy's aboard. Andrew Balling's going for the Trainers' Championship. I think they'll be going all out to win this game. And 6-1 is these person in this game, win this race. And 6-1 is the even price about her. So yeah, I'd be backing it. And then they're due for Saturday. So I'm fairly positive about both of those. I can see El Astronaut being outside the top 3. Some bookies are doing top 4. Nebulosa will be backing to win. I think there's a good chance. And then I'm going to back 2 in the Arc Triumph on Sunday. So the Arc Triumph is a race that this year you don't need to have a bet, and there's so much quality there.
Yeah.
But I think the 3-year-old, so the Tarnarwa is the favourite. She's won Group 1 races, Breeders' Cups, everything. So you can't really knock her, but she's going to have to give some weight away to the 3-year-olds. Derby winner Adiyar, I think he's the real deal. Won Derby, won the King George. William Buick could have rode him or Hurricane Lane. He's chose Adiyar. I think that he's got a great chance, 130. So we're backing him to win. And then tied into his form, so Mojo Star finished 2nd in the Derby at Sandown earlier on in the year. Adiyar won, Mojo Star was 2nd, and I think Hurricane Lane was 3rd. there's a lot of mixed form in there. I don't think Mojo Star has enough to win, but I can see him placing. So there's 40 to 1 available if you're going top 3 or top 4. But Paddy Power, we're paying 5 places and we're 33 to 1. So I think Mojo Star 33 to 1, looking for a place angle there. Was that 6 and a bit to 1 for the place? Is a good bet. Like obviously you can't discount any horse. We could win it. There's going to be a lot of rain over the weekend. Handle soft ground, so they'll be the 2 in the arc for me. And my voice is gone. Sorry.
All right, fair enough, Gary. Thank you. Very valuable tips there, but we'll give you a little rest from speaking. Your voice is done. So, we'll wrap up that side of the show there. We're going to move very swiftly on to the NFL and the Circa picks, which we've done the last couple of weeks here. So we'll go through our picks live. But just to wrap up the football, and my noisy background here, hopefully you can't hear what's going on. But yeah, pretty good week so far. Plenty of stuff for the weekend. Like we said, sportsrundown.com. Head over there, check out all the different tips, and yeah, we'll see you back here next Friday for the same show, the same time.
Nice one.
Thank you. Welcome back after that slight break. PK, welcome back to the show. How are you getting on? It's been a while since we've had you.
Yeah, I'm doing well, LB, doing well. Just, standard enough. Back excited with all the sports back after the summer. Just getting into winter over here now, so it's great to just have stuff to watch when you can't do anything at the weekends, you know.
Yeah, wasn't a bad summer with the Euros, but generally, yeah, it's great to get back into the autumn time and having all the sports to go.
A lot of the games are on shit times here too, though. So, but yeah,
the Euros,
the Euros did break it up a bit.
Right now, we're going to the World Cup very soon, so sorry, next summer, but straight back in after another good summer. But anyway, look, we won't go off on that tangent. We're ready to do our NFL pick. So anyone who's watched this the last couple of weeks, Sports Rundown, we're entered in the Circa Millions, and we will go through our picks live on air every Friday. We'll make our selections, and we will we'll make them on air. So we'll run through the board, we'll discuss them. PK, anyone who's familiar with the stream from last season will know PK was a regular member back then. He's joining us now to cover some NFL with us, help us through here. So I was going to hand over to Gary to do a recap of where we were, but maybe we'll keep Gary's talking to a minimum. PK, how have you been finding the NFL so far?
Yeah,
great start for the Chiefs.
It's good. It's just, I'm obviously a Chiefs fan, and that hasn't been a good start. I'm trying to figure it out because we've got 2-3-0 teams in that division now, and we're 1-2. So it's going to be a struggle. We need to start turning around very quick. But I think there's some questions going to be answered this weekend on the legitimacy of teams like the Raiders and the Chargers are playing each other, but the Broncos are playing the Ravens. We're going to discuss that game as we go through this, but that's a good acid test for them. And the Cowboys and the Panthers are playing, which I think is a great matchup. But I think it's around now where it starts taking shape and you start getting a better read on teams. But it's been a good start. There's been some great games. Even the game last night was a good watch between the Bengals and the Jacksonville. Jacksonville just being Jacksonville again, though. But it's been a good start to the season overall.
Yeah, it has.
In our fantasy league, giving them 3-0 as well. I'll be on top of the league. You might be 0-3, is it?
Yeah, 0-3, and I don't think I have 3 wins between all my fantasy leagues, PK. It's an absolute disaster this season. So I had a very good year. I'm pretty new to fantasy football. So 2 seasons ago was my first season, and I actually won the only league I was in. So obviously thought I was cock of the walk, could do no wrong. Last season did okay, got to the playoffs, didn't go anywhere after that. And now this season, my beginner's luck has firmly ran out, and I'm getting annihilated every which way I turn. So that's enough of the fantasy talk, and we'll leave that to the offline because I don't want to talk about it. In terms of the circuit, so I was going to give this to you, Gary, but we'll give you a little break with the throat. We've gone 3 out of 5, 3 out of 5, 3 out of 5 to 3 weeks. Last week was probably a fair 3 out of 5, to be honest. We had a couple of other winners that we discussed on the show, but plenty of losers that we discussed and avoided. So I think 3 is fair. The other 2 weeks, pretty disappointing. The first week, me and Gary, we picked 8 picks between us. I got 4 out of 5. Gary got 4 out of 5, and we combined for 3 out of 5, which was, pretty disappointing. And then the second week, made some last minute changes. Again, I had 4 out of 5. Gary had 4 out of 5, and we combined for 3 out of 5. So pretty disappointing.
If I'm not too sure, I haven't listened back to you last week, but I think on last week when you asked me about the Bucks Rams, I said the Rams were a banker, and then somehow we just didn't have them in there, So fairly sick to miss out on get a call right and be fairly firm about it, but then actually come out empty-handed. So a bit annoying. Yeah,
definitely. So hopefully, PK, you'll keep us on the straight and narrow this week, and we won't have any of those last minute brain slips. So so you can see on the board there now up on the screen, we will run through the order in the Circa order. So it'll be slightly different than the order you see on the screen, but the spreads are all the same. We'll talk about the games, and then we'll make our picks at the end. So the first game up, Washington at Atlanta. Both of these teams are 1-2. As I was preparing for this segment of the show, I got to this game and I just thought, I don't even want to do this. For me, it's an absolute avoid. But PK, you're new to us. What are your thoughts on this game?
I'd be very hard on Washington here. Washington haven't been bad. I know they had a bit of a blowout against the Bills last week, but they kind of stepped it up in the second half. The Bills could be likely the best team in football at the moment. The Falcons just haven't done anything. They've nothing there to give me any confidence. Like Kyle Pitts hasn't got going. Calvin Ridley, who a lot of people took high in some fantasy leagues, hasn't done anything. They just haven't got it going now. This could be the week, but I see enough in Washington to make me think that they can cover a 1 point spread against the Falcons.
Harry, what are your thoughts?
Sorry, I was on mute there because I was coughing away. Yeah, no, I agree with PK in a way. So like, I don't think Washington have played to their potential this season. And I think overall they've got a better roster than the Falcons. So I wouldn't be surprised if they won this game. But like, coming into the season and in the season preview, I wrote that their defense was going to be one of their strengths. And they just haven't played that well this season.
No.
So I think that like neither defense here, the Falcons are shocking on defense, but they've got a good offense. The Redskins or Washington, sorry, probably be done for racism or something.
Yeah, we get censored out now. Yeah,
Maybe shut down. But Washington, like, you know, they probably haven't got as explosive an offense as the Falcons. But they should have a better defense. They just haven't played that well this season. So I think it's going to come down to whichever defense plays better on Sunday. And Washington have the better potential to play better. They just haven't shown it this season. So overall, I'd pick Washington, but I don't think it's one of my top 5 picks of the week.
Yeah. My only thinking on this game is Washington are 0-3 against the spread. And I often wonder, does that just play into how they're priced up the following week, and that the spread is probably slightly lower than it should be because they've been so poor against it so far. But a very, very slightly on Washington side here, but yeah, I wouldn't put it in my top 5.
But, like, to counter Atlanta having a good offense, they normally do, but this season they put up 6 points against the Eagles and 17 against the Giants. I mean, the Eagles might have a decent defense, to be fair, but they're not good numbers against 2 weak teams.
No, very poor. Okay, so PK's hot on Washington, Gary slight lean, me stay away, and that's that game, minus 1 point spread there. Second game up is Detroit at Chicago, so the lines are +3 here, 0-3 so far. Couple of impressive first halves, kind of scrappy, tough performances, and then just getting blown out in the second half. And the Bears looked okay week 1, looked a good bit better in week 2, and then, I mean, last week was an absolute car crash. I think they finished for a net 1 yard passing in the whole game, maybe 47 yards of total yardage gains in the game. Really, really poor. PK, we'll go to you again. What are your thoughts here? Lines +3.
Yeah, just a yuck game. I mean, Detroit have had moments, especially against the Packers in the first half, but then they just didn't show up in the second half. I think they've done that in a couple of games, as you said. And the Lions, Matt Nagy's after saying that he's not going to, it's a game time decision to name his starting quarterback. I mean, I don't know. That's crazy, given that they're in, you know, they're all over the place, and he's just making them seem even more all over the place.
He does seem to be a big part of the problem at Chicago.
Yeah, he must be odds on to be first gone at this stage. Like, he's just, yeah. It's not a game I'm very interested in, but I'd have to take the Lions based on they can actually score. Chicago just can't seem to score, so yeah, no interest game for me though.
Gary, what are you thinking?
The Lions all day long, I think, is a great bet.
-3.
Yeah, which is, well, I backed the Lions on the money line as well. I just think if you look at the Lions defense, like, they've come up against they're doing very well against the rush. So they played against the 49ers, played against Packers, played against Ravens, and they're giving up most of their yardage through the air, but on the ground, I think they only averaged something like 114 yards per game, and that was down at around 70 last week until they faced the Ravens, who obviously have Lamar Jackson, who's going to rush all over most defenses in the league. So I think that, you know, with the controversy or with the confusion at quarterback in Chicago, they're going to try and rush more with the likes of David Montgomery, and the Lions will be able to shut them down. And they've proven that they're going to be able to rack up scores. You know, they came back from, 28-0 down or something against the 49ers to nearly beat them. And they've racked up some good scores against the Packers and things like that as well. So I think that this is the time when the Lions get their victory. They were unlucky last week against the Ravens. Historic field goal beat them. Ravens are a lot better than the Bears. I think the Lions win this.
Yeah, I like the Bears generally, and I would do what I'd be leaning to support them anytime I could. I just don't see it here. I mean, you look at teams that lose and maybe there's a bit of bad luck, like you said, record-breaking field goals are huge, what I mean, the players that they've lost to, but with the Bears, there's nothing about them. There hasn't been 1 minute of their 3 games where you think, right, now they're going to go and put in a big performance against anybody. So I'm kind of in between the two. I'm a slight lean towards Detroit, but I don't think they're good enough to go into 5. And this is another game that I wouldn't be looking to include, but if there's no way you could include the Bears or pick the Bears minus anything, never mind 3 here. So, yeah, so that's where we are in that game. We'll move on. Game 3, the Titans at the Jets here. Titans are 2-1. They look much improved since that opening loss to the Cardinals. I mean, the Jets, I think you said, you said about Jacksonville PK, but the Jets are the Jets. I mean, they're 0-3. Offensively, they've scored 14, 6, and 0 in their 3 games. You could make a case that the defense looks okay, but then in reality, I think teams are just sort of taking their foot off the gas a bit when they get too far ahead. And a nice quirk statistic for this game is that Derrick Henry scored more touchdowns than the entire Jets offense this season. So kind of sums up where they are. Gary, we'll go to you first. What are your thoughts here?
I'm just going to say Titans.
7 points.
Yeah. Titan, it seems like a game. This should be a 30 and 14 point spread. Shouldn't be a 7-point spread. Titans win it by 15, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I was surprised to see the 7-point spread in this one too. But AJ Brown and Julio Jones got ruled out today, so I think that's factored in. But I just don't see it being enough. You said the Jets' defense might be decent, and it very well might be, but their offense doesn't keep them off the field. So yeah. I mean, they're just turning the ball straight back over. Their defense can only hold up so much, and you don't you're asking your defense to stay on the pitch against Derrick Henry and co. I mean, it's to me, I'm with Gary on this one. I think 7 points is an easy one to cover here.
I'm the same. When I first saw that line, I actually thought it looked like a banana skin. I was like, why is that so low? And we've talked about it even when you were on the streams with us last year, PK, in other sports, when the price doesn't look right.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, we've talked about it, Gary. I think in week 1, I think after fumbles and turnovers, the biggest thing that impacts these type of bets is overreaction to injury news. And I think the 7 there has got a couple of Titan injuries overly cooked in, and I think that they'll comfortably cover the 7. So I think the 3 of us are all agreed there. First came up that we're all agreed on. I don't see how the Jets score enough. And I thought, like you said, their defense is going to be on the pitch so long that they're just going to end up coughing up a lot of scores. So
yeah, I actually think Derrick Henry scored 3 touchdowns at 10-1 is a decent bet. And I've never even contemplated back a player to score 3 touchdowns before, but it it just seems to make sense. I think they're just going to rush all over them, and they'll win the game.
Yeah. So I think we're all agreed there. Nice and easy. Game number 4, the Browns at the Vikings. Cleveland are -2 here, so road favourites. Probably unlucky not to be 3-0 in the season. I mean, they absolutely demolished the Bears last week. The Vikings 1-2, and again, a little bit, not necessarily say unlucky, but their 2 losses have been for a combined 4 points. So 2 very, very close games. PK, what are your thoughts here? Cleveland at Minnesota -2.
I think it's a great game against 2 very good form teams. As you said, the Browns are unlucky to not be 3-0, but the Vikings have just looked very good as well. I mean, that's why the spread is so tight here. I'm inclined slightly to go with the Vikings here. I think Cousins, he always gets abuse, but God, when he's good, he's good. But when he's cold, he's cold, and it's one of them things. But at the moment, to start the season, he's running hot, and whatever. He's got his receivers going. They've got Dalvin Cook is still a doubt, which is kind of tempers that a little bit. But it's a great game. Not a game I personally like to touch for this kind of thing. But if I had to pick one side, I'd be picking the Vikings.
Gary.
Yeah, I am very similar to BK. I do think this game really hinges, and my kind of strength of thought hinges on Dalvin Cook. So I don't think I'll be putting this into the top 5 bets because we don't know that at the minute. But if Cook is playing, the Browns are averaging 175 yards or just under 175 yards a game against the rush. And I don't think they've faced a Dalvin Cook yet. So if they have to fill the box to stop Cook, it's going to mean it makes it easier, a lot easier for Cousins to pick them off. So yeah, I'll avoid it for the Circa millions, but if Cook is playing, I take the 2 points all day long.
Yeah, I'm slightly stronger than the two of you here. I think Vikings, I probably backed them at the money line here. I'd be slightly above. I mean, it's only 2 point spread, but I like them for the win. Yeah, the Browns have the 2 wins, and I mean, they are unlucky not to have 3, but the 2 wins have come against Houston in an absolutely abject bear. So I think the spread is a little bit. I wouldn't make them favorites in this game, and I think I'll take the 2 points. So I mean, that's not one it's not a hill I'm gonna die on. It's not one of my top 5 picks, but I'd have quite a significant lean towards the Vikings in this one. So we can see if we're out of options later on in the show. We can circle back to it. We all seem to be on the same side, but just me by quite a bit more than the two of you guys. So yeah, that's that one. Game number 5 here is the Colts at Miami. So the Colts are plus 2.5 here. They're 0-3 for the season. Very disappointing start to the season, but they have had 3 very difficult games. Plenty of question marks over Carson Wentz and his ankles. Dolphins 1-2, and Jacoby Brissett faces his former team after an overtime loss last weekend. So, Gary, what are your thoughts here? Indianapolis plus 2.5.
It's a game I can't really decide on, if I'm totally honest. I would go with the Colts if I had to have a bet, but it's one I think is 50-50. As you said, Wentz hasn't really hit the ground running. He's dealing with injuries, like 2 ankle sprains in the game 2 weeks ago. Didn't set the world alight last week. The Dolphins are kind of still dealing with losing Tua. I think it's just an avoid game, but I'd take the 2.5 points about the Colts if I had to have one.
PK, what are your thoughts?
The exact same. Both dodgy teams, dodgy Wentz. I mean, it's not a game that whets my appetite in any way. I wouldn't pick it for anything, and I'd be inclined to go with the Colts, but don't care about this game, to be honest.
This is very similar to the last one. The two of you, slight lean but avoid. This would actually be one of my picks. The Colts plus 2.5 here. I think very, very difficult start to the season. Like schedule wise, I think it's probably an overreaction to that. I think they're producing an awful lot of sacks. I think maybe 8 so far. Miami are coughing up a lot of sacks. I think Brissett is going to have a really tough day. I think the Colts win this game, and I definitely take them plus 2.5. So we pencil that in as another one where we're all on the same side, but not a big strong call from either of you two guys. So we'll see a potential circle back to a game. The next one is the Panthers go to the Dallas Cowboys. So 2 very sharp looking teams this year. The Panthers 3-0, the Cowboys 2-1. What are your thoughts, PK? We'll go to you on this one first.
As I said at the beginning, this is a game. This one, like of the weekend, piques my interest nearly the most. I mean, we're going to learn a lot about both teams here, I think. Panthers have been very good to start the season. Sure, McCaffrey obviously missing, I think, this weekend still. Big loss, but like their defense has been good too. So, but the Cowboys have just been slinging it. Like Dak looks back to his best. He's starting to connect with all the wide receivers, and they've got a double whammy running back there with Pollard and Zeke that seems to be just their offense is just working. It's
very versatile, isn't it?
It seems unstoppable. Like it's like you're looking at his wide receivers and he's hitting them all. He's hitting Gallup. He's hitting he was injured, but with CD Lamb, he's hitting Schwartz, the tight end even. Like so, I mean, can the Panthers stop the Cowboys? I don't know. Without McCaffrey, they might struggle to keep the offense on the pitch enough to keep keep their defense running. So I'd be inclined to take the Cowboys, but it's not one I'd be overly confident with, and not one that I would pick myself.
These two teams are both 3-0 against the spread, which I think is kind of rare to see them come up against each other like this. But for me, it's a very heavy lean towards the Cowboys here. I think the Panthers have looked good, but then again, they've played the Jets and the Texans, so it's not like they've had a whole lot to do. So it's a very heavy lean towards the Cowboys for me, and it's one of my 5 again. So Gary, what are your thoughts on this one?
There's another one where I've left out, but I agree what you've just said there. So if you believe the Panthers' defense, then you have to choose the Panthers. But can you believe it after facing the Jets and the Texans? That's too big of an open question for me. So I'm going to leave it out. But the one thing I will say is I'm not too sure of the player. I think it was like a lineman that was interviewed just after McCaffrey's injury. And he said something along the lines of where like the Carolina Panthers were not the Christian McCaffrey Panthers. And I think they could come out with a bit of a chip on their shoulder to say, right, we're going to prove ourselves, that we're not a one-man team kind of thing. And that would lead me to just say, leave this out. So I can see where you're coming from with the Cowboys. I would agree with it to some extent, but that kind of reactionary aspect from the Panthers, I think, is a bit of danger. And then obviously we don't know how good their defense is because, the three of us could probably defend against the Jets, so.
Yeah. So same as 3 games in a row now where we're all on the same side, but you two with slight leans and me with quite a heavy one. So another one to circle back to. Game 7 now is the Giants travel to New Orleans. 0-3, the Giants, a miserable start. And speaking of linebackers, I think Blake Martinez is gone now for them, so that's a big hole to fill. The Saints 2-1. First game back at home, proper home game. Saw some clips of the guys talking, and it was like a party on the plane going back to New Orleans last week. It's the first time they've been home in about a month. PK, we'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on this? New Orleans giving up 7.5 points at home to the Giants.
Yeah, I'd be relatively confident on that one. I think it's fair to say Jameis is still figuring stuff out in that offense. They're trying to stifle him a bit themselves. He's averaging 200 yards a game or something, which would have been crazy a couple of years ago. But that's because they're just trying to make him bring it back and don't go for loose passes that are to coin tosses. So they're trying to figure it out. I think they will. Peyton is a great manager there, or coach. The Giants just haven't figured anything out on the other side of the thing. They're just a mess. I watched the game against I think it was Washington a couple of weeks ago that they just lost. And literally they couldn't have done anything more wrong in the last quarter. The whole thing, just taking bad timeouts, the whole just throwing away the game essentially. And it's just well, my God, you don't know how to win a game. And they just look bad. They just look the same old Giants as per the Jets. So I'd be inclined to go with the Saints on this one.
Gary?
Yeah, I'd be the same. I prefer 6.5 as a spread to 7.5 as a spread, obviously. But yeah, it's tough to see the Giants being able to go into New Orleans. As you said, Liam, there's going to be a buzz around the stadium. There's no wind during the Superdome. There's no wind or anything like that to affect Jameis. I think he'll rack up a score. I don't think that the Giants will be able to keep up with him. And yeah, I can see them covering. So that's one of mine.
Yeah, for me, this is a big one. It's probably my second pick of the whole lot. New Orleans. I was looking up the number one defense since this week last season through to this week this season. Obviously, the number 1 points allowed against, and obviously the number 4 against, obviously, and then number 4 yards allowed. So they're incredibly strong defensively. New York are just an absolute mess. I don't see how they score. What you said about 6.5, 7.5, Gary, I thought that too, that, the old garbage time scores and they take the foot off the gas a bit. But I think with the being home for the first time, putting on a show in the dome, having not played at home at all this season, I think that they won't do that. I think they'll keep going here, even if they get a lead up, and they'll kind of, it'll be an entertainment kind of game. So I will be, very heavy on the Saints here.
Yeah,
I think they win. I think they will go.
The 1 point, if it was 6.5, and if you can get 6.5 for the bookies, it would be a lump job.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's kind of it goes in and it's in the super contest. Obviously, we wanted to win, but it's not a lump. So.
Yeah. Cool. So that's another official pick. So it's the Titans and the Saints are our first 2 that we're all heavily aligned on. So there's 2 up. Game 8 is the Chiefs go to Philadelphia. So 7-point favorites on the road here, PK. We'll, of course, go to you first. What are your thoughts on Kansas City at Philadelphia?
I try not to let my bias come into this, but
Always hard.
Always hard, but the Eagles' defense actually looked all right. But like Chiefs are under pressure now, and I feel like they're going to come out and make a statement this week. The one thing, like I'd say, the Eagles' defenses look decent, but they offensively they look. I watched the game against Dallas the other night, and Jalen Hurts' confidence just went. It was on a free fall. Threw a couple of picks, couldn't find a man, couldn't get the ball moving, and they picked him as a captain of the team, but he came off the pitch all the time shaking his head in silence. So he just didn't look. He doesn't look right. Their offense doesn't look right. Defensively they're all right, but like you've a lot to cope with there now with the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs are going to come out, try and make a statement. I think that's 7. I mean, the Chiefs are going to.
You said doesn't look right. So in that game, they called the run less than 10% of the time of called plays. It was like 9 point something, and it's one of the lowest ever in the modern era of the game. And I don't know, like you said, it just looked so bizarre. It was obviously intentional, and it just, I don't know, it's very, very strange looking. Something doesn't look right to me there. I don't try to read too much into that type of thing, but it just sort of like sore at home.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to show the reliance or the confidence they have in Hurts, but I think it backfired in that game anyway, that's for sure. I said, Chiefs are in statement mode now as well because of the start, the 1 and 2 start, so I can see this could be a blowout, but it would be one of my picks, so it would be at 7.
Gary, what are your thoughts? Kansas City -7.
Sorry, I'm just looking on a cough suite here, so I'm trying to get off mute. Yeah, I kind of agree with PK there. I can see it being a blowout. They should cover. The doubt is Chiefs defense, which hasn't been great. But I think they'll have just enough to get by, and they should cover the 7. So yeah, be one of my picks.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you guys said. I would lean that way. It wouldn't be one of mine necessarily. I mean, I know they're 0-3 against the spread this season, and I think there's something like 1-11 against the spread going back into last season. I think they're probably the most overrated team in terms of, or certainly of the top, I'd say of the 3 most overrated teams in terms of NFL betting. The Chiefs are always, they're always, the bar is too high. But they do look, I mean, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire he got more yards last week than he did in the previous 2 games combined. He looks like he's getting back to his best. I think it'll take the pressure off, and I think I kind of agree with you. I think they could absolutely smash them, but they don't really do that these days. They rarely cover the spread, and I'm not so sure. I would lean with you guys, but not to the extent that you guys do. This will probably go in, considering the 2 of you are so aligned. So it'll probably go in. We'll give it as a maybe for now, but I think we're all on the same side of this one, but I'm just not as confidently as you two.
No, that stat does bear, it does have weight. To be fair, 1-12 is not a good record.
No, and they're I was looking it up. Now I did this. I didn't read the stat. I actually did it by eye. So if I've made a mistake, don't pounce on me in the comments. I think their last 10 or 11 games have been decided by less than 6 points or less. So they play very tight games, which it's not really how people picture them. But then again, these streaks always do come to an end. So I think this will probably go in. You guys are both very heavy on them, but and I agree with it. I don't disagree with anything you said. And I do think that the Eagles are a mess. So
yeah, it's just like I said, I think the worst part of the Chiefs is probably the rush defense, and the Eagles don't have much of a rush offense. So they're probably going to be safe by that, and they'll be able to demolish them. That's my feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
like we said, I think it was 9.2 or 9.4% of the calls last week went to the rush, and it just didn't, they're not going to be able to do it. Okay, so we're agreed on this one. Game 9, or our game 9 at least, is the Texans travel to Buffalo. PK made a very bold statement at the start of the show that the Bills might be the best team in football at the minute. Texans 1-2, Bills 2-1. I mean, that game week 1 win over Jacksonville for the Texans looks like an awful long time ago now. The Bills, 2 impressive wins, opening day loss, but 2 impressive wins since. So 16.5 point favorites here at home. The PK, what are your thoughts? You made the bold statement, so we'll go to you first. Will the Bills cover by 16.5 points?
I just want to start by saying that I was supposed to go to this game, but
Really?
the US Canadian border COVID situation made it impossible, so had to bail on that one. But
That's sick.
yeah, the old Bills Mafia tailgate. I still haven't got to one, but I will eventually. Obviously, this is not you're not going for this game of football because yeah, the Bills, like, looking at them last week offensively, Josh Allen has got it going again. I mean, yeah, and defensively the takeaway too. Like, it's just the Texans actually looked okay the first couple of weeks with Tyrod Taylor. I think it's just too much for this rookie going in. Last week he got hit hard a few times. I think it's just too much to put on his shoulders. You can't touch this game with that spread, I don't think. 16.5. But like, there's no way the Texans are getting anywhere close to the Bills in this. But it's nearly a 3-score spread, so I couldn't touch it.
My worry is with the 16.5 that they take the foot off. But I saw a stat that over the last 5 or 6 seasons, something like that, I think it's like 62% of games over 16-point spreads the favorites cover. So it's not as, maybe the taking the foot off thing doesn't happen as much as we think it does. But I agree with you, it's a very, very high bar. Gary, what are your thoughts on this one?
Bills should win, but I'm not going to take a chance on whether it's 17 points or 15 points. I'll leave it out.
Yep. Okay, I think we're all agreed there. Very high bar, so we'll move on. Gary would probably have to resort to sign language soon, so bear with us. Another game here now. You said that the Carolina Dallas game, PK, was one of the kind of, we learn a lot. I think this next one, Arizona at the Rams, is another one. Kyler Murray looking like an early MVP candidate. He's playing out of his skin. The Rams are 3-0 as well. PK, you have a very interesting stat on this game for the Rams. What are your thoughts?
Yeah,
4.5 points, by the way. Sorry, Cardinals are picking up 4.5 points.
Sean McVay has never lost to the Cardinals since he's taken over the Rams. He's 8-0 against the Cards. Now, that's not against the spreads, that's just to win. But still, it's a pretty bold stat there. Like, I mean, you said it's a great game. It's a great game for both teams to see this, like, to know what we're going to learn as well.
It's the game of the weekend for me, I think.
It could well be. I think there's a few great games this weekend. There's another one. Sorry, the Ravens and the Broncos, I think, is a good game too, just because of what we learn. But I fancy the Rams here. I don't think I could pick them. I think they have too much firepower. I don't think that the Cardinals' defense is that good. Like Jacksonville were putting it up to them for 3/4 of the game last week, until they handed it to them. Essentially, Trevor Lawrence with an awful pick. The Rams have just looked good. If we're talking about the best teams in football, I think most of the rankings have the Rams number one now. I mean, they've just, like, Stafford and Kupp just looks like it was a match made in heaven. The two of them, you can't miss them. Henderson's still out, I think, which affects my fantasy too. But I just think they'll have too much firepower against the Cardinals, who haven't looked like they've had a great defense but a great offense. So I'd be inclined to go with the Rams here, but I couldn't pick it.
Yeah, just to save Gary's throat, I agree with that, PK. I lean the Rams. I think as much as Arizona have looked good and their 3-0 is obviously impressive, they haven't necessarily looked that good in the games or in the entirety within those games. Sean McVay has their number, that's for sure. You said 8-0. I mean, that the combined score in those games is 250-90. So I mean, it's not like he's just scraping past them either. He's, very, very big wins. I'd lean the Rams, but I think in such a big game, wouldn't put it in. But I do think the Rams cover on this one. Gary, what are you thinking?
Rams are a certainty.
Okay, so Gary's hot in the Rams.
That's a bold statement.
If we're stuck for a pick at the end
for the Super Bowl as well.
Yeah, well.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like if we have an empty fifth spot, this one will be going in. We're all on the same page here, but
that's a big statement from a 49ers fan too.
I know, but they are.
Yeah.
Speaking of the 49ers, we'll be moving on to them very shortly. So we're all with the Rams here. Gary, very hot. I'm kind of leaning that way in PK as well. You think they're going to cover? They'll have too much, but 4.5 is a tricky number. Game 11 on our list here is the Seahawks at San Francisco. picking up 3 points. So 49ers 3-point home favorites. Serious setback last week for the Seahawks to that loss at Minnesota, and I mean there's definitely issues on the defensive side of the ball that they need to sort out. The 49ers really struggled. I think, I'm not sure if you guys watched the game last week against the Packers. Devontae Adams caused them absolute nightmares, and I mean they had to resort to some questionable tactics to get around that. Now they've got to face DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I think this is a Seattle banker. I think they win, and I think they win comfortably, and I think that it's going to be 3 points is an easy one for them here. But PK, we'll go to you first again. Actually, Gary, if your throat's up to it, we'll go to you first. I see you. I saw a 49ers fan. Even apologies.
I've never predicted a Seahawks 49ers game right, so I won't start now.
Okay, honest answer, PK. We'll go to you.
These short and sweet ones from Gary are great.
No,
it's not one I can put a confident call on. Both teams have multiple questions to answer. The Seahawks have been far from convincing to start the year. 49ers have been decent. They let Detroit back into the game. How they let the Packers win that game last week is crazy. That throw from Rodgers to Adams in.
But you say that, I thought that they were quite lucky to be in the game at that point. I mean, yes, at the end it was they were probably unlucky in the last, like, say, clockwise 90 seconds. But I think to be there where they were after 3 quarters, I think was just.
No, you're right. You're right. The Packers were the better team, but still, you have the game in your grasp, and you shouldn't let it go like that. I mean, that's
when you talk about teams win ugly, it's the sign of champions, or the flip side is that they're just lucky and they're picking up wins. We'll find out pretty soon with the 49ers. I mean, you said that they let the Lions back into it, and we had them to cover there, so we were eagerly watching, or on our seat, on the edge of the seats watching that one. Same with the game last week. You watched the first 20 minutes. They were also rans. Like, the Packers absolutely played them off the pitch, and then they were just all of a sudden they're back in it and they nearly won it. So we'll find out soon which way they are. Are they really good and they're winning ugly, or are they just kind of getting by? What really swung this one for me, I was kind of on the fence about it, and then the record against each other here. I'm not sure if you know it, Gary, the record between these two. So the last 20 games, it's 17-3 Seattle. I think by about 300 points across those 17 wins. And the 3 49ers wins are by 2, 3, and 5 points. So when they do win, they barely win. And
I mean, it's a pretty broad one. Like, the last, maybe for the 10 years before, 2 years ago, Seattle were a lot stronger team than the 49ers.
That is true, yeah. I think it's one each the last 2 seasons. So I do think they'll cover. I think that, the way Seattle, or the way the 49ers have played, letting teams back into it or letting teams get ahead and then clawing their way back, I don't see a big win. So even if San Francisco do win it, they win it by 1, they win it by 2. I mean, even with the 3, you get the push. So I think for me, if it doesn't go in, I'll be backing it heavily. So I'm okay with that. I think Seattle win. I think they cover for sure. But we have a lot of hot picks up here between us, so this might be missed for that reason.
I mean, it's another great game. I mean, the 49ers at home too, the fans are going to be demanding a reaction to that loss to Green Bay too. So, I mean, if they lose this, the fans are going to be on their back. So, I mean, I think it is set up to be a great game also for the weekend.
Yeah. Okay, so no call from Gary, probably no call from PK, and a hot lean from me towards the Seahawks. So game 12, this is another absolute cracker. The Ravens go to Denver. Broncos 3-0, Ravens 2-1. The Ravens are 1 point underdogs here. Very, very tough line to call. I mean, made history last week with that 61-yard field goal. They lost. Their one loss was in overtime in Vegas. We all watched that game as well. A very, very tough one for the spread bettors. The Broncos, they looked great, but I mean, let's be honest about it. They've played probably the 3 worst teams in the league. So, what way do you lean? I think Gary's voice is officially gone, so we go to PK. What way do you lean here? The Ravens +1.
I mean, you summed it up there. Like, the main thing out of this game is what we learned about Denver, but they've beaten the 3 worst teams, and they've beaten them well though. But you can only beat what's put in front of you, I suppose. But I mean, how how the Broncos are favourites on the back of that against the Ravens, I don't know. I definitely wouldn't be taking the Broncos, but I'm still, because of the question mark about if the Broncos are potentially that good, it makes me slightly go against the Ravens. But I'm like, like some of them were like 90% or 95%. I'd say I'm 80% Ravens on this one. And if the Broncos prove me wrong and the Broncos are decent, fair enough. But I mean, the Ravens have proven how good they are.
Las Vegas have surprised everyone how good they are. They went to overtime and then, a bit unlucky in overtime, a couple of needless turnovers, one in the game to give to get the Raiders back into it, and then one in overtime to give them the win. So I mean, they could have easily beaten the Raiders on another day. Then they beat the Chiefs, and then Detroit, they beat them as well. 2 tough road games in there. I mean, I think Baltimore win this game, and not a huge difference between winning +1 and winning outright. So I just think that Denver, the 3 wins they've had, 20 odd points against New York, Jacksonville, and New York again. I don't know. I'm not that impressed by it. I mean, they're racking up big scores against dog teams. I take the Ravens here, but again, it's kind of like you there, PK. I won't fight to get something else out to get them in because it's going to be a tight game. But I think they'll win. Gaz,
I'm against you. I think the Broncos win.
Okay, so really? Our first proper disagreement.
Well, good defense.
Yeah, that's true, but it just depends on, like, they've had takeaways in most of the games too, the Broncos.
Yeah, but like the rush defense has been very good as well.
Okay,
they're only allowing something like 70 or 80 yards per game. So
I mean, just to throw a cat amongst the pigeons, you did say that the 3 of us together could probably defend against some of those teams like the Jets earlier in the show.
Yeah,
I don't know if their defense is that good. I mean, we'll find out. We'll know by Sunday night.
They're at mile high, so Jackson can't throw the ball anyway. He's not going to be able to throw it at mile high. Has to rush it. They know that. It's only Jackson. They've no other rushers. I think Denver shut them down and win it really easily.
Oh, easily, right. So this one definitely won't be going in. We're all on opposite sides here. So we'll move past that. +1 is always tricky to call anyway. So we can we'll plow ahead. Game 13 now, 13 or 15. So not too many left. We've got the Steelers go to Green Bay. 2 tough home losses so far for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big Ben looks like he might finally be on the home straight. The Packers, I mean, we talked about it, how they looked so good last week against the 49ers, and then somehow we're lucky to win at the same time. I think we can safely assume that first game not in New Orleans, but against New Orleans was a blip. It was just a first game, so cobwebs needed to be blown away. My lean on this one, I think Green Bay cover easily. I think Big Ben he's past it, and I think the Packers have kind of got their house in order. PK, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Mother Nature has caught up with Big Ben now, and then like he just he just looks old out there. And the Packers will be able to put him under pressure. He just isn't hitting his men. If the Packers do what the Packers do, I think they cover this as well.
If they play like they played against San Francisco, I think they annihilate them.
Yeah, it's a fair statement. Like, I think, was it it just shows how much like Big Ben is checking down as well, though, because like I think Najee Harris had something like 19 reception targets last week thrown.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and they're not deep throws, right? He isn't finding time, or he hasn't, like, maybe even the arm for deep throws anymore. Like, if you're checking down to your backfield that much, I mean, it's not a good sign, I don't think.
As what do you think? 6.5 point favorites at home.
Agreed.
Okay, so this is going in. 3 of us are hot on this. We got the one word. We got the nod of approval from. Gary sounds like some mythical character there. I can't think of a movie quick enough now with the voice. He's like the Oracle or something in the background.
Like something out of a gangster movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The Don in the corner. Yeah, kill that guy. Nod. Yeah. Right, so the Green Bay Packers are going in, and that is that 6.5. Yeah, I think it's going to be an easy one. This one now is I've got a statistic for this game that I absolutely love. It's the type of stat that I love to see. But Tampa Bay 6.5-point road favorites at New England. The Bucks 2-1, the Patriots 1-2. Two ugly home games for the Patriots so far. Mac Jones and co have scored just 30 points in 2 games with Foxborough. Tom Brady, if he gets 68 yards passing on Sunday, which I mean is as good as given, he will be the all-time leading passer in the league. That's actually not the stat that I was even talking about. So, and he has a chance to join a very elite group of players who've won against all 32 teams. Will they cover 6.5 though? That's the question, PK. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Like Mac Jones is they're trying to groom him into the really steady, no bad pass kind of thing, and up until
groom, I don't think so.
Well, you know what I mean. As a quarterback, they're trying to just trying to make him into steady Eddie, and he had no interceptions until last week, but then cracks appeared last week big time. I think when that Bucks defense puts him under pressure and get a couple of hits on him, I think he'll start to flap. And I don't think the Pats have much in the way of offense anyway. To stop the Bucks. So yeah, I think this for me would be one that I would be inclined to go with the 6.5.
Is he inclined now? So your last couple of picks, you were between 80 and 90% What'd you put this one?
In our super contest, I took them. So this is one of my starts. I mean, as I said, there's multiple reasons there. There's the Brady factor winning, whatever, blah blah blah. I know the Pats fans will be loud in Gillette Stadium, but just once that defense gets on top of, puts Mac Jones under pressure, I think it's a world of hurt he's going to be in that he hasn't experienced before in college or professional. So I think that'll be a big factor. The
stat that I mentioned is that it is the highest I've ever seen. 98% of the bets and 98% of the money is on Tampa Bay here as of last night.
Spread or money line?
Yeah.
Spread. How come it hasn't moved that much though?
I don't know. I don't think it's going to get people in. So yeah, 98 and 97%.
But if the bookies are willing to take that much money, what do they know?
That's what I think. I'm very strange. It's the highest I've ever seen, or certainly ever heard of in that regard. I agree with you. I think the narrative's already written for this one. They win easy. 2 big, landmark moments for Brady. I think that's going to be it. Even if you take all that out of it, I just don't see how the Patriots handle it. I think you said Mac Jones, he looked sound like Gary now. He looked, the vulnerabilities appeared last week, and I think the Tampa Bay will take cruel advantage of it. It's a heavy one for me. It's one of my 5 as well. Gary, what do you do? Do we get the thumbs up or the thumbs down from Don G in the corner? Thumbs up.
I sound like a goat. Brady is the goat.
Simple.
That stat has got me wondering why they would even release that sort of information, LB.
So I actually thought that myself as well for years, and I only found out this season that it's actually the law in Nevada. They have to report it to the gaming commission every night. So obviously the Wednesday night and Thursday night, the 2 big nights before, Thursday and Friday night, the 2 big nights before the weekend are the ones that everyone wants to see. So yeah, they have to release it, and that's where it comes from.
Why are they willing to take so much exposure on that line? It's crazy.
Yeah, something I need to think about this in more detail about those line moves. So, because with normal like head-to-head betting, like in European football, you just adjust the odds and then your exposures on one side or the other. You don't get that with spreads though, because if you move the line too much, you'll get people. Both sides could win it, and you end up even in a worse situation than you started in. So,
yeah, but you're never still such. They have algorithms, and they have technology that'll let them get to a point where their exposure is such. But 98% exposure is crazy for any house.
Yeah, I agree. It's mind-boggling. But we're all on the same side here, so the 3 of us brings it to 101%. We're all on the books here. Then the last game, Monday Night Football, the Raiders go to Los Angeles for, on paper, an away game, but they probably will have more Raiders fans in the stadium. I think the fact that this line is just 3 is a testament to how improved Las Vegas are this term. And Carr looks serious this season. 3-0 the Raiders, 2-1 the Chargers. This is another game we're going to find out a lot about one of these two. PK, what are you thinking? 3 points, by the way, they're picking up on the road. Los Angeles 3-point favorites at home.
Yeah, I think it's another great game based on what the two teams have done. I mean, the pressure's on Herbert. Can he back up what he did last week? Like, because he was if you turned on your TV on Monday to the NFL Network, he was all over it, and they were like, he's such a boss and all this. But like, he needs to back it up. But one of these teams loses, which is good for the Chiefs.
Yeah,
it's kind of a line for me. But and it's a game I'm perfectly happy to just watch. I don't have a strong opinion on it. I think one-score game is fairly fair on it. Chargers have home advantage, so maybe that could be the swing. But yeah, it's a no-touch game for me.
Yeah. An interesting stat. The two games last season, both were won by the road team, and both were won on the final play of the game, which would put me inclined to take the Raiders here. Mostly because of the last play thing, it'll be a tight game. I think it could be a very tight game, and the 3 points could very easily come into be the swinger. Gary, what are your thoughts on this? I'm a very light lean, by the way, in that one.
Chargers are banker.
Chargers are a banker.
Didn't see that coming.
No. Right, Gary there, Chargers are banker. So that's our 15 remaining games we've ran through. We have 4 that we're very hot on. All 4 of us agree straight away. So the Titans, the Saints, the Packers, and the Bucks. All 4 of us heavy leans there. So I think they're going in. And our last line, our 5th one, is going to be between. I'm going to rattle through a few of these. So let me get through the list and then let me know your thoughts. So we all lean Minnesota, me heavily, you two just about. We all lean the Colts, me heavily, you two just about. We all lean the Cowboys, me heavily, you two just about. I lean very heavily the Cowboys there, by the way, more so than the two previous. You both are heavy on the Chiefs. I have a slight lean that way. We are all leaning towards the Rams, although Gary is very hot on them. And that's the only one where we all are on the same side. And then we got the Chargers, where I'm probably slightly the Raiders, and Gary's heavy on the Chargers. So PK, we go to you first because you got a fully functioning set of vocal cords. What do you take of those? So if you want me to run through the list once again, it is the Vikings, the Colts, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and that is it. We're all on the same side.
Probably, I'll only give the top 2, but I have no problem with. I'd probably go Chiefs number 1, and that's just me being me. But you give very good reasons to not, and then I'd probably go with you on the Cowboys, to be honest.
Okay, very good. I'm actually the reverse of that. I'm very big on the Cowboys, but I could be convinced on the Chiefs. So we're kind of there. Gary,
said Chargers now, what?
Gary, what do you think? If you want me to run through the list again, I can do, just to save your...
So Rams out of those with me first, but I'll go with the Cowboys.
Right, so Rams, and he's gone with the Cowboys. So that's it. So it's the Titans, the Saints, the Packers, the Bucks, and the Cowboys. So 5 big names there. Cool. We're pretty agreed.
That's a big call by Gaz there. I think that one needs to be remembered for next week if it comes in. Fair dues to him. It's braver call than I'm willing to make on that game anyway.
Nice. So some very good insights there. I think strange that we're agreed on so many of them. Only a couple of games where we're all on opposite sides. So I'm pretty happy with that. PK, game of the week and bet of the week. What are your 2?
Oh wow. There's so many good games. I think it's let me have a look through the list here. I mean, Browns and Vikings is a great game. But for the Cardinals and Rams, I suppose you got 2 3-0 teams and divisional game. I mean, it's a great game against 2 of the top. The Cardinals are arguably top 5, but definitely 2 top 10s. So the Rams are number 1 in most lists now. So I mean, hard to look past that. Best bet of the week. Oh God, I think for me, it's Titans or the Bucks to cover, and I think I'd have to go with the Bucks. I just think, like we said, I think that Mac Jones gets a harsh lesson against that Tampa defense, especially coming off the loss against the Rams too. I'll go out with a point. There's multiple factors to the Tom Brady side of it too, and I think everyone from whatever, from a romantic viewpoint, I'd like to see a tight game and blah blah blah. But I think the Bucks splits them.
Nice, Gary. Game of the week and bet of the week.
Cardinals, Rams, and Rams, Chargers, and Bucks treble.
Rams, Chargers, and Bucks treble. Nice. Yeah, I think we're all on the Rams as well there, actually. So that could be one that we could regret to not put in. We all sort of fancy that one there. And yeah, for me, I think that the Titans are the bet of the week. I agree with you, PK. That actually both of your bets of the week are pretty good, but I just think that the Titans walk it. And the game of the week, for me, is actually going to be the Seattle 49ers game. Obviously, there's probably bigger games out there, but that's the one that I'm undecided about both of those teams this season. I think after this game, I'll be able to make my call. So that's the game I'm looking forward to most.
Yeah, and interesting that the games of the week that we selected are all in the same division. So it goes to show that division, how good it is.
Yeah, the concentration. Excellent.
Yeah, but then the Ravens Broncos too, which is just a great game. I mean, it's the fixtures this weekend are great.
Yeah, it really is. It's a tricky one, I think, for the big five or the Circa Millions. I do think it's a tricky one. Hopefully, a few people further up the leaderboard struggle, and but a lot of exciting football to look forward to in its own right.
For me, that I know it's very early in the season, and it's only 3 weeks in regards to the results. But what's leading that? You have 66%, which is pretty decent.
Oh, there's people with 15 out of 15.
There is?
Yeah.
Oh, holy shit.
Yeah. I was stunned at how many people had 10 out of 10 after 2 weeks. Like nearly 100. Like it was like 80, 90 people had 10 out of 10. So yeah, there's a few out there, big ones. It does even out over the course. I mean, there's nobody going to be remotely near that number when the at the end of the season. But I mean, there's a few people shoe-ins now for the quarterly prizes. And I mean, I think we need to be in the 70s really to have a good shot. So I mean, we need a big week here. Otherwise, it starts getting harder and harder to move that average line. But 66 at the minute, 3 out of 5 each week. I confident on all 5 this week. So
they're all teams to cover too. They're not that are minus. They're not. Yeah. We don't have any. We don't have any on. The other side of the spread.
Yeah, sometimes I look at that and I'm like, oh, do you want to have a nice mix of picking up points and laying points and home and away? But I think maybe over the course of 5 seasons that evens itself out. But I think in a given week you just have to play the board as it.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah. Cool. We'll wrap the show up there. No point in getting into any more heated discussions when we've only got 2 sets of vocal cords between us. But listen, PK, it was a pleasure to have you back on. We'll hopefully see your face plenty more times between now and the end of the season. And
my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. And we will, so anyone who's watching the show still, we will be back this time next week, Friday Betalong. And then check out SportsRunDown.com. We've got everything we talked about will be up there, all the football, all the American football, college football, racing, the whole works. It's always free, it's always transparent, and we share everything there well in advance, or as certainly as in advance as we can. So head over there and we will see you next week. So thanks for tuning in.
Good luck.